Tonight's meeting of the Metropolitan Nashville and Davidson County Council is coming to you live from the council chambers at the historic Metro Courthouse. It's a public affairs presentation of the Metro Nashville Network. Good evening, everyone. I'm Pat Nolan, your announcer for this program. Tonight, the 15th Metropolitan Council holds its 80th business meeting of a four-year term. This is the first council meeting of 2023. For tonight's meeting, the Metro Water Services officials are expected to provide an update to the council on the impact of recent below-zero weather in Nashville, which caused numerous water main breaks both during the freeze and after the thaw began. Tonight's council agenda is 45 pages long and contains 124 items. That includes 46 second reading zoning bills up for public hearing, 12 resolutions, 35 bills on first reading, 12 second reading measures, and 17 ordinances on third and final reading. In addition, the council will consider appointments and reappointments to 3 Metro boards, including an appointment to the Emergency Communications District Board, a reappointment to the Procurement Standards Board, and 2 appointments to the new Solid Waste Region Board. The council will also consider 3 nominations to the new Tax Incentive and Abatement Study and Formulating Committee. One of them comes from Mayor John Cooper, the other comes from the Director of the Office of Economic and Community Development, and the third comes from the Director of Affordable Housing Division of the Metropolitan Planning Commission. Under the zoning bills on public hearing tonight, the council will consider BL 2022-1409 to revise the city's tree ordinance and BL 2022-1473 to change the definition of what's considered a family under the code. Both bills have been deferred at least once before. There is a substitute ordinance before the council tonight that would also change the proposed family definition. The tree bill will likely be deferred tonight. It's still waiting for an actual recommendation from the Planning Commission. Among other resolutions tonight, in the wake of the city's tight finances in recent years, RS 2022-1901 would set new policies for dipping into the city's fund balances. That bill was deferred at the last council meeting. There's a related ordinance on second reading tonight tracking with this resolution, so the resolution may be deferred again tonight. So final action on this and the ordinance can be taken at the January 17th council meeting. Another resolution deferred at the last meeting is RS 2022-1903. It would approve an economic impact plan for the proposed Madison Station development. Legislation would provide tax increment financing for the project to cover costs related to public infrastructure and site development. The plan is expected to generate a significant number of new jobs, taxes, and related development. There are 4 amendments, including a substitute ordinance on the agenda pertaining to this bill tonight. Other resolutions, RS 22-1936 would approve a grant application to state to receive a $3 million grant to support Metro Police in reduction of violent crime in the community, providing for technology updates, police support, and implementation of a group violence intervention program. RS 22-1937 would approve NDOT to apply a $2 million state grant, which would be used for video and other sensory data to identify safety issues outside traditional crash reports, as well as implement targeted safety measures and evaluate those measures in downtown Nashville amidst its complex multimodal environment. The project will particularly benefit North Nashville by focusing on Clarksville Pike and Buchanan Street in that area to improve transportation safety with an emphasis on pedestrian and bicyclist safety. Under another resolution, RS 2022-1938, NDOT would be authorized to seek a $12 million state grant requiring a $3.4 million match from Metro. The funds will be used to fund the development of a fully instrumented advanced transportation management system with transit signal priority technology that would be along Gallatin Road. Gallatin Pike is considered one of the highest transit ridership areas in Middle Tennessee and is one of Metro's most congested corridors. Under memorializing resolutions, the council will honor Meryl Rose on her retirement from News Channel 5, as well as recognizing the retirement and service of MP&F Strategic Communications Senior Partner David Fox. On second reading bills, it appears 2 proposed ordinances will seek to have the council again try to resolve an issue it has struggled with in recent months. RS 2022-1630 would create the Nashville Film and Television Advisory Board, while 1631 would establish a Nashville Entertainment Creation Commission. Both bills will be deferred tonight. Both have very similar goals and objectives. The council has not been able to decide what is the right one to pass, and tonight they've decided to defer them for 2 meetings to see what happens. Also on a second reading, the council will approve 2 bills, BL 2022-1633 and 34, to set up under state law a program run by the trustee's office to assist owners of agricultural, commercial, industrial, and some multifamily residential properties to obtain low-cost and long-term financing for qualifying clean energy and resilience improvements to their properties. There's also on third reading BL 2022-1582 to again establish in cooperation with the trustee's office a property tax relief program for low elderly income residents of Davidson County if they meet the requirement incomes houses is no more than $31,600 annually. In other bills on third and final reading, the Council will consider BL 2022-1528 to increase the size and make appointments to 11 of the city's city boards and commissions to foster more diversity and representation. The boards impacted are the Board of Property Standards and Appeals, Metropolitan Transportation Licensing Commission, the Auditorium Commission, the Historical Commission, the Human Relations Commission, Housing Trust Fund Commission, Board of Ethical Conduct, the CATV Special Committee, Short-Term Rental Appeals Board, Beer Permit Board, and the Stormwater Management Committee. In many cases, boards will be expanded in size with appointments made not just by the mayor and with council confirmation, but by direct election of the council. It appears this legislation has been negotiated with Mayor Cooper's office, so if it passes, he seems ready to sign it into law. All these members of these boards and commissions in Metro serve multi-year terms and on the board as a volunteer on an unpaid basis. Other bills on third reading include BL 2022-1572, would seek to codify the existing traffic calming program maintained by the Nashville Department of Transportation and provide additional regulations for privately funded traffic calming projects. The council has struggled with this matter for several months. A new substitute bill was passed on second reading at the last meeting and now appears to be ready for final okay tonight. Finally, on third reading, BL 2022-1533, a bill that otherwise would appear to be a routine easement acceptance on Charlotte Avenue, but the measure has gotten embroiled in a pending closure of the nearby Brookmead homeless encampment, and Metro is getting those residents in the housing there. At the last meeting, changes and an amendment requested by the bill sponsor, Councilmember David Rosebush, was rejected by the council. They also would not defer the bill. At that point, a co-sponsor, Councilmember Tom Druffel, took over the bill, got the council to approve an amendment that he offered, and passed the bill on third reading to put it on third reading tonight. It will need 21 votes to pass tonight. Councilman Rosenberg is offering a substitute ordinance as well for the bill as a part of the debate tonight. If you want to follow the council meeting as it progresses, you can find the agenda and staff analysis online. You go to the Metro Council portion of the Nashville.gov website, then onto the Legislative Information Center. We'll also be placing the bill numbers on the screen when they come up for consideration so you can follow along and keep up with where we are on the meeting agenda. Let's go now to Vice Mayor Jim Shulman. He'll be gaveling tonight's meeting of the council shortly.
You ready? Will the meeting please come to order? We welcome you to the Metro Council. Today is Tuesday, January 3rd, 2023, the first meeting of the new year. Will all members of the council as well as the public please rise for the invocation, remain standing for the Pledge of Allegiance. Our invocation tonight is brought to us by Father Theodore Galley of the Coptic Orthodox Church, the guest of Councilmember Antoinette Lee.
Let us pray. Dear Heavenly Father, we thank you first and foremost for your many gifts and blessings which you continually bestow on us. We thank you for granting your servants the honor and the privilege of serving the people of our great city. We ask you to help us to remember always that there is no authority except from God, and the authorities that exist are appointed by God. We ask you to grant your servants wisdom to guide their decisions in accordance to your will. We ask the Holy Spirit, the Spirit of truth, to help them see the truth in difficult decisions, even in the face of competing interests and agendas. We ask our Lord Jesus Christ, who said, "Learn from me, for I am gentle and lowly in heart," to give your servants humility and the ability to listen and to work together, even in the midst of differing opinions. May you continue to bestow upon your servants and upon this city your heavenly blessings for the glory of your name. We ask this for the intercession of the Mother of God, St. Mary, and all your saints. Amen.
I pledge allegiance to the flag of the United States of America and to the republic for which it stands, one nation, under God, indivisible, with liberty and justice for all. Y'all may be seated. Without objection, we will suspend the calling the roll and ask the clerk to record the names of those members present throughout the meeting. Is there a motion for adoption of the minutes of the meeting from December 20th, 2022? We've got a motion properly seconded. Without objection, the minutes of the meeting will stand approved as written. Mr. Clerk, are there any messages from the mayor?
Yes, Vice Mayor, there is. Dear Vice Mayor Shulman and members of council, pursuant to regulations of the Tennessee Comptroller's Office, the attached reports on debt obligation must be submitted to the Metropolitan Council and presented at a meeting of that body before filed with the Comptroller. As previously approved by the Metropolitan Council, the Metropolitan Government of Nashville and Davidson County Water and Sewer Revenue Commercial Paper Notes Series 2022A, RS 2022-1845, was issued on December 15th, 2022.
Mr. Clerk, let me stop. I think your microphone is on, but I'm not sure if anybody can hear you back there. Can you all hear in the back? Okay. People can always hear me.
Is that better?
Okay.
As previously approved by the Metropolitan Council, the Metropolitan Government of Nashville and Davidson County Water and Sewer Revenue Commercial Paper Notes Series 2022A, RS 2022-1845, was issued on December 15th, 2022. The Water and Sewer Traditional Commercial Paper Program is a principal commitment of $200 million. The Water and Sewer Commercial Paper Program serves as bond anticipation notes for capital projects related to the system. Please see Metro's Investor Relations page for additional information. As always, we appreciate the Metropolitan Council's support on these important financing initiatives. Sincerely, John Cooper, Mayor.
All right. Thank you, Mr. Clerk. All right. A couple of things to note and remember. So Councilmember Hauser is not able to attend tonight's meeting, and she sent a message and she asked me to read it. I looked at it and I thought, based upon the nature of what she sent, that I should read it. I did edit it down just a bit and then added some comments to it. Here's what she said. Our Metro Homeless Impact Division staff, consultant team, nonprofit organizations, and volunteers deserve a standing ovation for what occurred over the last several weeks, especially at Brookmead Park. While I helped residents pack up their belongings, I witnessed the team's patient, kind, and skilled work with the residents. They even took care of the dogs in the park. The dogs will receive vet care and their shots. With patience, kindness, and persistence, they provided housing and services for the in-house residents of Brookmead Park. Our Metro Homeless Impact Division staff, along with staff from Metro Social Services, WeGo, the police department, also went out into our community to make sure the unhoused were provided a place to sleep and food during the recent cold weather at our cold weather shelters. I was privileged to bake goods for the shelter. While many of us were wrapping gifts and enjoying the company of friends and family, our team, our Metro team, was outside in the cold taking care of our most vulnerable people. The work didn't stop for holidays, late hours, or cold temperatures. The phrase, "it takes a village," applies to creating solutions for our homeless population. This has been a long time coming and a first step in the plan to help our unhoused residents find permanent housing and stay housed. I am so grateful to you all. So obviously a big thank you to all those individuals, Metro Homeless Impact Division, all the individuals that work together, social services, WeGo, the police department. Also, I will add to it, because I saw many of you added comments over the holiday. Big shout out goes to NES for the work of their staff and crews who had to deal with the cold and the power outages during the holidays. I know a great deal of time and effort was made to get people connected as quickly as possible. And also a big shout out to everyone who worked with the Metropolitan Government over the holidays, and to the police and fire department for their work around the holidays, and particularly around New Year's Eve. Sometimes we forget that while we were able to take a break, there were lots of Metro employees who were working very, very hard on behalf of all of our residents and doing an excellent job. So please join me in thanking these incredible individuals. All right. You should have gotten a memorandum from me just recently. We have some more board vacancies at the Community Oversight Board. I'm going to quickly go through this because we do this every so often. You should have received a memo from me today with formal notice of 3 vacancies on the Metropolitan Community Oversight Board for terms expiring January 31st, 2026. Board members currently holding these seats are Ms. Phyllis Hildreth, Mr. Demarius LaShawn Witzel, and Mr. Mark Wynn. Of the 3 vacancies, 2 members must be representatives of either 1, a community organization, or 2, a private petition signed by 50 residents of Davidson County. One of those vacancies will be a person nominated by the mayor. Members must be registered voters. Persons whose seat are becoming vacant are permitted to remain on this board for a 60-day holdover period during the pendency of this election. So here are a couple of dates that are important for you all to remember. January 17th, 2023, all nominations must be filed using the Community Oversight Board nomination form. Form must be completed by any council member wishing to nominate someone, as well as any member of a community organization. So these are, I think, the two members must be representatives of either a community organization or a private petition. So obviously you can get involved, but they're going to have to come from those 2 particular groups. So if you have somebody who wants to be nominated, they need to get a form, proper form from the clerk's office, and it needs to be submitted to the clerk's office no later than 4:30 p.m. on January 17th, 2023. Nomination form is available online, must be in the clerk's office no later than 4:30 p.m. on January 17th, 2023. Petition form is also posted on the Community Oversight Board webpage. Nominations by petition form must be signed by 50 Davidson County residents, and the petition form must be included as an attachment and filed at the same time as the corresponding nomination form. All nominations received by January 17, 2023 must file the Community Oversight Board information sheet for Metro Council no later than 12 p.m. on January 24th, 2023 via email to the Metropolitan Clerk's Office. That's metro.clerk@nashville.gov. You have to get those things in on time. All nominees must appear before the Metro Council Rules, Confirmation, and Public Elections Committee on Tuesday, February 7th, 2023. And the Metropolitan Council will elect and confirm 2 board members by a majority vote at the regular council meeting on February 7th, 2023. Council will also vote to confirm the mayor's nominee. If you have any questions about these forms, I know we're going through it, but you can look online, Community Oversight Board webpage. You can call the Metropolitan Clerk's Office. The number for the Metropolitan Clerk's Office is 615-862-6770. Again, let me give you that number again, Metropolitan Clerk's Office, 615-862-6770. If you have any questions, if council members have any questions, you can certainly contact the council office. We do have a special guest here tonight in the audience. Mr. Ray Render is here. He is the Deputy District Director for Congressman John Rose. There he is in the back. Congressman Rose represents Tennessee's 6th Congressional District, which now has parts of Davidson County, roughly the northeast third of the county. Mr. Render was born and raised in Madison, down in the Neely's Bend area. Went to Neely's Bend Elementary and Neely's Bend Junior High back in those days. Graduated from Madison High School in 1985 before going to Tennessee Tech. And he said he owned the house. He grew up in Madison until last year when his mom passed away. So he's always considered himself a Nashvilleian. Mr. Render, welcome. We're glad you're here. Appreciate it. Please join me in welcoming Mr. Render. All right, one last thing. As we enter the last year of this council term, please remember the things that really are important to our community. We have about 8 months left on this term. Remember the things that are important to our community and our broader community. There are obviously so many people in need, so many areas that need improvement, so many issues that need our attention. I urge you to find new ways to work together to better our city and county. And while doing it, remember that what we do here can also impact the world around us. And as I said so many times last year, please remember the people of Ukraine and any other people around the world or right here at home that are struggling just to make it. With that, we will go on. The first thing on our business tonight is elections and confirmations. Councilmember Murphy? You have a report.
Thank you. After gaining a quorum, we have several things to report. Starting with the Emergency Communications District Board appointment of Mr. Gonzalez. That is deferred, 4 in favor, 0 against for 1 meeting. And then I would like to go ahead and suspend the rules to have Procurement Standards Board reappointment of Ms. Shannon Raybon in front of us for a term expiring on July 20th, 2025, which was approved, 4 in favor, 0 against. Do you want to deal with that motion now or later?
Yeah, do we have anybody else we're suspending the rules for?
Yeah.
Okay, so Ms. Shannon Raybon, this is for the Procurement Standards Board, and it's my understanding, I think the form wasn't in on time?
Yes, Rule 23 form was late.
So we would be suspending the rules, but Ms. Raybon actually came tonight, right?
Yes.
Okay.
And we approved her 4 in favor, 0 against.
Okay, so Councilmember Murphy is asking that we suspend the rules. That's the motion. Is there any objection to suspension of the rules to get this matter heard tonight? Seeing none, rules are suspended. Councilmember Murphy, you're recognized.
Thank you. We have Solid Waste Regional Board appointments for Dr. Patrick Rayner and Dr. Emily Jones, and those are both deferred, 4 in favor, 0 against.
Okay.
Then we moved on to the Tax Incentive and Abatement Study and Formulating Committee for an appointment of LaTanya Channel, nominated by Mayor Cooper, and then also the appointment of, that was approved, 4 in favor, 0 against. The appointment of Ms. Angel Sims was nominated by the Director of the Office of Economic and Community Development, which is deferred 1 meeting, 4 in favor, 0 against. And then finally, Mr. Mick Nelson, who was nominated by the Director of Affordable Housing Division of the Metropolitan Planning Department, and he was approved 4 in favor, 0 against. And with that, I'd like to move for those deferrals and improvements.
Okay, so it looks like that we have 4 that we're doing, 3 that will be automatically deferred, but the ones we're voting on would be the reappointment of Ms. Shannon Raybon, and then the appointment of LaTanya Channel, the appointment of Ms. Angel Sims.
No, she's deferred, so I've got 4
she is
deferrals.
deferred. Okay, I'm sorry.
And I've got 3 approvals.
Okay, and then Mr. Mick Nelson is an approval. Okay, so we've got 1, 2, 3, 4. So we've got 4 deferrals, but 3 that we'll actually vote
3
on
approvals.
tonight. Okay, thank you. Okay, so the motion is to approve the 3, properly seconded. Any discussion on the motion to approve these 3 appointments tonight? Seeing no discussion, we're ready to vote. All those in favor say aye. Opposed, no. Those 3 are appointed. Ms. Shannon Raybone on the Procurement Standards Board. If you're here, would you stand up? There you are. And then LaTanya Channel for the Tax Incentive and Abatement Study and Formulating Committee, and also Mr. Mick Nelson for the same Tax Incentive and Abatement Study and Formulating Committee. Those are the 3. We just approve you to be on these particular committees, or what's the first one? It's Procurement Standards Board. Thank you for your willingness to serve. Members of the council, please join me in thanking them appropriately. All right. I would say before we get to bills on public hearing, we do have a Spanish interpreter here tonight, Ms. De Ruiz. If you'd come to the microphone in the back and explain to individuals that you can be of assistance tonight, that'd be great.
Buenas noches, mi nombre es Sandra, yo voy a ser la intérprete de español para la sesión de esta noche. Gracias.
All right, thank you. All right. We are now ready for bills on public hearing. I will call the bills one at a time and then refer to the sponsor. Unless the sponsor moves to defer the public hearing, the sponsor will call for a public hearing. I will then ask for a show of hands for those who are here in favor of the particular bill, and then I will ask for a show of hands for those who are in opposition to the particular bill. If anyone in favor of the measure wishes to speak, I will ask you to come forward, find the microphone, introduce yourself, and give us your address, and then you'll have 2 minutes in which to speak. I will then ask if anybody opposed wishes to speak on the same measure. After we go through that process, I will close the public hearing and refer back to the sponsor. So we are ready for the first measure. It is item number 1. I think we've seen this one before, BL 2022-1152 by Councilmember O'Connell. It's an ordinance to amend Title 17 of the Metropolitan Code of Laws by changing from IWD to MULA zoning for property located at 897 Elm Hill Pike, approximately 430 feet east of Fessler's Lane. Councilmember O'Connell, you're recognized.
Thank you, Mr. President. I move to defer this indefinitely with a brief comment.
Okay, so we have a motion to defer this indefinitely, properly seconded. Back to you, Councilmember O'Connell.
Thank you, Mr. President. We have had a difficult time. I know planning has been trying to get a response from the applicant, and as you know from the history of this bill, we've tried this a few times and have not gotten a response, and I think until the applicant affirms with the planning department that they will be able to return notices, we will wait until that time. So for now, I'm going to renew my motion to defer indefinitely.
All right, so the motion is to defer indefinitely. It was properly seconded. Any discussion on the motion? Seeing none, all those in favor of the motion to defer indefinitely say aye. Opposed, no. This one's deferred indefinitely. Okay. We're on item number 2. This is BL 2022-1409 by Councilmember Murphy, Hancock, Hauser, and a host of other council members. It's an ordinance amending Title II and Title 17 of the Metropolitan Code of Laws relative to trees. Councilmember Murphy, you recognized.
To track with the Planning Commission meeting, I need to defer this to the March public hearing.
Okay, this one's going to be deferred to the first meeting in March, to the March public hearing. Okay, that's the motion, properly seconded. Any discussion on the motion? Seeing none, all those in favor of the motion to defer to the first meeting in March say aye. Opposed, no. This one's deferred to the first meeting in March. Item number 3, this is BL 2022-1471 by Council Members Parker and Welsh. Ordinance to amend sections 16.24.030 and 17.04.060 of the Metropolitan Code of Laws to amend the definition of family. Councilmember Parker, you're recognized.
Thank you, Vice Mayor. I'd like to open the public hearing.
Okay, declare the public hearing open. A show of hands of those who are here in favor of this particular measure. Okay, a show of hands of those who are here in opposition to this particular measure. Councilmember Parker, I didn't see any hands either way. Okay.
I didn't either.
Declare the public hearing closed. Councilmember Parker, you're recognized on your bill.
Thank you, Vice Mayor. There's a substitute in your packet for this bill. Worked with planning staff and code staff as well as the zoning administrator on this. And so I'd like to move that substitute that's in the packet.
All right, so Councilmember Parker is moving the substitute on this particular measure, properly seconded. Back to you for an explanation. Is that the explanation?
Yes, sir. I mean, I can give a brief explanation about what the substitute does. So initially, this was designed to sort of fall back on the existing overcrowding provisions that are located in another part of the code. It's been a little while since I looked at this and the exact numbers, but this was at the request of planning staff and the zoning administrator. Excuse me, I'm still getting over a little bit of a cold. And this changes the definition of a dwelling unit to give it a very specified thing that the zoning administrator feels like he'll still be able to enforce, as well as sets the limit at a specified number. So with that, I'll renew the motion.
No problem. I'm also getting over a cold. I have cough drops if you need them. All right.
Thank you, Vice Mayor.
All right. So the motion is to approve the substitute. It was properly seconded. Discussion on the substitute. Councilmember Nash.
Thank you, Mr. Chairman. I know this bill came out of discussions of some college kids that had found themselves being asked to leave their housing. What is the current, if we're going to move it to 7, what is the current housing allowable for non-related people? Do we know what the limit is?
Councilmember Parker, do you want that one, or you want to go to planning?
I can answer that. I mean, just to clarify, this is something that I was working on before that particular news story broke. So currently it's 3, and that is 3 unrelated persons. There's a little quirk in the code as it's currently written where that you cannot mix related persons and unrelated persons. So let's say that Councilmember Withers and myself are siblings, and we buy a home and there's an extra room, and we wanted to rent that room out to Councilmember Benedict. That would not be allowed under the current code. So there's a number of issues that we're addressing here, but to answer your question about the specific number, it is currently 3, and this would modify it to 7.
What was the discussion at planning about increasing that number, that degree?
Ms. Milligan, you're recognized.
Certainly. Internally, we had a lot of conversations about it in regards to, what it would look like in different parts of the city. At the Planning Commission, it actually was on consent. So we didn't have comments related to this item.
Oh, Ms. Milligan, apparently they can't hear you. You want to try it again?
Yes. It was on consent at the Planning Commission.
I just think that's an awfully large increase to have potentially moved next door in some neighborhoods. I wonder if we shouldn't do an overlay in some degree, but I'm not sure where I'm at on this yet.
Okay. Councilmember Pulley?
Thank you, Mr. Vice Mayor. So I was just looking for a similar clarification, and I'm hearing that we move from 3 separate family members to 7 separate family members. Is that correct?
Ms. Milligan, you want to handle this one?
Yes. So currently the definition of a can everyone hear me now? Yes. Currently the definition of a family is broken down into a few different things, the way that you define a family. It is any number of related individuals, be that 2 or 20. If you're related, you're a family. It is by a state law, 8 persons that meet the definition of disabled by state law, plus 3 unrelated house parents in one location is considered a family as well. And then 3 unrelated persons are a family. And so you sort of got an A, B, C of family. And so it's any unrelated, a certain number of disabled plus house parents, and then 3 up to 3 unrelated individuals. And so this would change the number of unrelated individuals that are allowed to live in a single dwelling unit to 7. This is something that we're seeing take place actually quite frequently now across the country. This is the trend as sort of the way that people are cohabitating is changing a bit, that there's a bit of a trend in this direction to actually reconsider what we think about when we think about a family.
Councilor Pulley?
Yeah, so to be clear, what I understand is if we have 7 individuals living in a residence, nobody else but the 7 individuals, and they are all unrelated, that would be okay under this ordinance, given the proper, because I know in the bill it had something about to do with the size of the bedrooms and things of this nature as well.
So the substitute, so when this was originally filed, it removed the reference to 3 unrelated individuals and actually then referred to Title 16, which has to do with building codes, and there are some standards in Title 16 related to overcrowding, and that's like square footage per person, essentially. And planning and codes both had concerns about the way that the bill was originally filed because it could have led to much higher numbers based on just those sort of square footages per person or per bedroom, or that is tied to Title 16, which has to do with overcrowding from a building code standpoint. And so we worked with codes and planning, worked with Councilmember Parker to come up with this alternate way to consider it, taking Title 16 out of it and looking at it just from a sheer number standpoint. We looked at what some other peer cities have done. Some have done lower, some have done higher. We sort of fell somewhere in the middle with what we were proposing as a middle ground. And so we did do some peer research to see what others had done, some pretty recently, and came up with the 7. But yes, it would allow for 7 unrelated, and it removes, the substitute clarifies and removes that language that had previously been in there related to the square footages.
Here's a concern I have. One of the many concerns that I would have about this is 7 unrelated individuals bring 7 unrelated vehicles and 7 unrelated sets of friends, and all of these things can be very taxing on the neighborhood. We currently have some issues in my district as it relates to this. People who are currently in violation of the 3 unrelated rule, where these are very taxing to some of the small neighborhoods. I'm also a little bit concerned that, we didn't have anybody show up for the public hearing, and I feel pretty confident that has something to do with the timing of the public hearing being right after New Year's, and I'm not sure we have a lot of people who are aware that this is going on right now. So I'm a bit concerned about the numbers, and I'm not saying that I appreciate the sponsor's intent and his willingness to address this, and I'm well aware of the fact that he has been working on this a little while. I'd just like a little bit more time on this. So I'd like to know if the sponsor would be willing to entertain a deferral and re-refer back to a public hearing so that we can get people's input who this does affect, because that's what I'd like to see.
Councilmember Parker?
I think that we've had 2 publicly noticed public hearings on this now, both at planning and at this body. So, I'm supportive of a modest deferral if we want to do that to work through it as a body. I'm happy to come to any neighborhood association meetings or anything like that, as I've offered to do for a while. But I think we've had 2 publicly advertised public hearings. So, I'm okay with a modest deferral if that's where we end up. But I would like to hear from the rest of the folks in the queue before I make a new motion. So if you could come back to me when we're done with the queue, Vice Mayor.
Okay.
That's fine. Thank you. Thank you for that.
All right. Councilmember Porterfield?
Thank you, Vice Mayor. Thank you to the sponsor for working on this. I actually wanted to, this probably should have been a point of order, possibly. The same issue, the same technical issue we had last meeting is happening now. And I know we do our due diligence prior to the meeting, but it's helpful if we can actually read the substitutes and go over, to reference as the discussion is happening, and the substitute is still not loading. And that was the same issue from the last meeting. So if we could figure out a way to fix that, I think it'll be helpful.
Okay. we're going to go check and figure out why that hasn't been loaded. Councilmember Allen, you're recognized.
Thank you, Mr. Vice Mayor. I appreciate the work that the sponsor has done on this, and I think Councilmember Cash is going to have similar comments. I live in a district where we worked really hard with surrounding universities to get a grip on fraternity houses and things like that, where a large number of people living in a house was a problem. And the 3-person limit was a useful tool for dealing with that because none of the other tools would work. But that was 15 years ago, and our favorite university has gotten much better at working with landlords and blocking landlords that allow rowdy behavior regardless of who lives there. So we are developing more tools. We've now got the mayor's nightlife mayor, which may also be another useful tool. And I think the overriding thing at this point is the importance of people being able to afford to live in houses. I have 2 sets of children that all started out with 5 roommates in expensive cities like New York and San Francisco, and right now we don't have that option in Nashville. So I know that it is really, really important, as Councilmember Pulley raises the issue, that it's important to be able to ensure that this doesn't create a burden for the neighbors. And certainly I think the biggest burden can be misbehavior, but I think we've got better tools to deal with that. But we are doing everything we can to create more ways for people to afford to live in Nashville, and this, I think, is an important one of those. So I'm willing to keep working on the enforcement pieces and how we ensure that this doesn't have an impact on neighbors. But I feel like this is a tool that we need to get in our tool chest and work on the details of making sure it doesn't have impact on the neighbors as part of that or following.
All right. Thank you, Councilmember. Councilmember Cash.
Thank you. I think some of my comments or concerns are going to be similar. I mean, I think it's kind of an old law, and I'm very open to something that's different than what's in the code now. I think like Councilmember Allen said, we have other tools. We have tools to deal with noise. We have tools now, better tools, since we passed new legislation in the last couple of months to deal with parking issues. And, you know, I'll say if anybody's concerned about students, reach out to the universities. They're good about, they want their students to learn to be good neighbors if they're not being good neighbors. So if that's a concern, I would say reach out to the universities because they are responsive to that stuff. At least the ones in my district are, both of them. I guess my concern is that from what I'm understanding, there was an earlier version of the bill or an early version of the bill that related to kind of a sliding scale for square footage, and now we just kind of got a number 7. I mean, to me, there's a very big difference between like a small 2-bedroom house that has 7 people and a 4 or 5-bedroom house that has 7 people. So I guess my hesitation is around that kind of this number that 7 fits all. I'm not convinced of that. And I will tell you, as somebody who has tried to enforce the existing rule, it's very hard to get codes to acknowledge or get an admission that a house has more than they're supposed to. So I'm kind of very open to changing this number, but I kind of think either we need to have a sliding scale for this 7, like we do with Airbnbs or short-term rentals. It's like a number times the number of bedrooms. That kind of makes sense to me. And also kind of like if we could have some discussion with codes about how we could better enforce if we're going to raise the number that's allowed. How can we deal with that other than dealing with the consequences, the noise issues, the parking issues? I think need to be dealt with police or with traffic and parking. But I kind of think if we're going to make a rule, we should have a better tool to enforce it. But I appreciate Councilmember Parker bringing this because I think it is something that's good for us to talk about, and I would appreciate like other council member has said, if we had a little more time to talk about it. Thanks.
All right, thank you, Councilmember Cash. Councilmember Porterfield, I'm going to come back to you. Apparently, we cannot get this stuff downloaded tonight, but we do have copies of it that if anybody wants a copy, if you will just let us know, we'll make sure we get a copy to you. We can print copies and then get them to you, okay? So why don't we go ahead and make sure we get Councilmember Porterfield a copy of it. Yes, ma'am.
I have since pulled it up on my personal computer, Vice Mayor, so I'm okay. I don't need to kill a tree and get a personal. Thank you for giving that option, but I don't need a paper copy.
Okay.
But someone else may need one.
All right, if anybody else needs one, if you'll just let staff know, we'll get you one. Councilmember Sledge, you're recognized.
Thank you, Vice Mayor. Echoing the comments of colleagues about supportive of the spirit, I do have some built environment questions for planning. It seems to me in the reading of this that there's no provision. Several of us represent districts that are 1 and 2 family, and the reality is it's 2 family on the lots. They're being built basically to the 40 or 45 foot max, depending on where they are. What, if any, provisions are there for prohibiting where both sides of a 2-on-1 or an HPR wouldn't be applicable to this? In other words, under this legislation, would up to 14 residents be able to live in those 2 units combined?
It is per dwelling unit. And so much like if a private individual owned a duplex and they wanted to rent out both sides today, they can. They could rent that out to 3 unrelated or families of any size today. So you could have that scenario today if everyone that lived in both were related. And so, yes, it would be applicable to any dwelling unit. So it's by dwelling unit.
Got it. So I think part of my concern is echoed by my previous colleagues, in which I'm in a district right next to universities as well. That's a de facto fraternity house right there. You put 2 units together and you've got the 14. If I'm in those organizations, I'm thinking I've got a whole new market available. So I do think that needs to be considered. The other issue that I have is that there are infrastructure issues we have in some of these neighborhoods where a lot of the development's occurring, and there's no provision here either, and I want to make sure I understand this. For planning, is there any provision in these that talks about water and sewer capacity when it comes to these?
So anytime anyone is building right now, if someone comes in to get a building permit for a single family home, they are receiving water and sewer capacity from water services. And there's not a question of the end user. And so a single or 2 family would be analyzed for typical use of water and sewer capacity of a single or 2 family. And so again, a single family right now that's 4 or 5 bedrooms, if everyone's related, could have 7+ people now.
Thank you. So the reality that I'm facing in the district I represent is I've got streets where we've had 12 to 24 new units placed on 2-inch mains. The mains are literally tapped out. And so you cannot actually build another dwelling unit aside from what's already there, even when we've upzoned like we have in a couple of neighborhoods. So I guess my concern is that we're not making provisions for what the reality of the built environment is, and I would ask the sponsor and the department to think through that if we're going to go through a deferral. Thank you, Vice Mayor.
All right, thank you, Council Member. Councilmember Hurt.
Thank you, Mr. President. I was just basically trying to get some clarification, simply because I work with communities that are often forgotten with transitional housing, or those that might need halfway housing because they're recovering and things of that nature. So I was wondering if there's a specific, if a family has a home that has been used for transitional homes or halfway homes, and it's still a single-family dwelling, would that be acceptable? So I'm in favor of this legislation, and I actually want to applaud the sponsor for the work that he's done on it and bringing it forth, because oftentimes those communities are forgotten, and we want to make sure that we provide housing for individuals who are already challenged in many ways.
All right. Are you looking for an answer to your question? I think it's Ms. Milligan at Planning. We're on the substitute.
Certainly. So there is a separate use in the code for boarding house that would be different than a single family or a two family or multifamily. That use exists, and so this would not have impact on that use. Additionally, if based on state law and based on our current definition of family, recovery homes are typically covered by the ADA, and so Americans with Disabilities Act, and so that would be covered under that definition of 8 individuals that are covered under ADA. So that's already covered, up to 8 with house parents if they meet that definition, and so this would not also change that.
Okay. Thank you.
Thank you, Councilmember. Councilmember Young.
Previous question.
Okay, so Councilmember Young has called the previous question. We're discussing the substitute. Okay, so let's see where we are on the previous question. All those in favor of the previous question say aye. Aye. Opposed, no. Previous question prevails. We're voting on the substitute. All those in favor of adoption of the substitute on BL 2022-1471 say aye. Aye. Opposed, no. Okay, so I've got at least one no, two no's. Okay, so the substitute goes on. Councilmember Parker, you're now on your bill as substituted. What would you like to do?
Thank you, Vice Mayor. I think after discussing it with the chair of the Planning Committee, what I'd like to do this evening is defer it for one meeting, and then it will be before the Planning Committee at the... Yes. So I'd like to move this for approval on second reading and then have it go to the Planning Committee on third reading, first meeting in February, at which point, if we deem that more time is needed, it's Title 17, we can defer it as much as we feel necessary.
Okay, so let's make sure we got this. The motion is to approve tonight on second reading, but to have third reading, defer the bill to third reading for the first meeting in February?
Yes.
Okay. That's what the motion is. Properly seconded. Discussion on the deferral motion. I've got some people in the queue. Anybody want to talk about this? Okay. We just passed the substitute. Okay. So now we're on the bill as substituted. So the bill as substituted would pass, if you approved it tonight, it would pass on second reading, but then it would be discussed at Planning and Zoning on third reading on the first meeting in February. Councilmember Cash? I think I've got this right because I was watching the conversation. Councilmember Parker, why don't you explain what you've got?
I can clarify. So what I'm hoping to do here is pass it on second, defer third reading, one meeting, which would be the first meeting in February. It's Title 17. We can defer it as much as we deem necessary. So in that discussion at the Planning and Zoning Committee, if we find that more discussion is needed, then we can defer it again without getting caught up. Has already been deferred several times.
I think what we're getting hung up on is you're going to pass it tonight on second reading, but you're pushing it over, you're skipping the next meeting and having the third reading. So it's really deferring it 2 meetings from here. We're calling it one meeting, but it's really deferring it 2 meetings.
It's
deferring it 1 meeting. Well, let's rephrase this. The motion was to approve tonight on second reading and have the bill come up on third reading at the first meeting in February. Is that right?
Yes. So move for approval tonight and defer third reading to the first meeting in February.
Councilmember Cash, you good with that? You see? Okay. All right. Councilmember Benedict.
Thank you, Vice Mayor. Just oftentimes we have council members who aren't on committees submit questions. So I was wondering if maybe we could request that people submit questions for this so that they can be prepared and distributed to the council prior to that meeting, first meeting in February.
Yeah, so obviously this has gotten quite some attention. So if there are any questions or anything else that you want to get answered, if you'll send them into the council office, we'll get them answered in advance, or at least try to get them all answered in advance. Is that what you want to do? that would be fine.
If I may suggest a point person for that, Vice Mayor.
Do you want to make a suggestion?
I would like to nominate Matthew Wilkinson as the point person for questions on this legislation.
Okay, so there's a motion to nominate Matthew Wilkinson for the point person. It's been seconded. It's the appropriate person. We'll just approve that without objection. So send them all to Mr. Wilkinson, and he appreciates your kind offer. All right.
Vice Mayor.
All right, we are still on the motion, the deferral motion, which is to pass tonight and then defer third reading to the first meeting in February. Any other discussion on this one? I've still got people in the queue. Anybody want to talk? All right, so we're voting on the, Councilmember Porterfield. Hold on, there you go.
For clarity, Vice Mayor, is there going to be two separate things, voting to pass it tonight and then voting on the deferral, or is this all rolled into one vote?
We just it was all rolled up into one motion.
Okay, thank you, Vice Mayor.
All right. So it looks like we're ready to vote. Everybody knows what the motion is. All those in favor of the motion say aye. Opposed, no. Okay, so I've got a couple of no's, but motion to approve tonight and hear third reading on the first meeting in February passes. Right? All right. Thank you, Councilmember Parker. We'll move on. Item number 4 can be taken with item number 5. This is BL 2022-1483 by Councilmember Sledge and Allen. It's an ordinance to amend Title 17 by change from IR to SP zoning on properties located at 426, 446, and 464 Chestnut Street. And Chestnut Street, unnumbered, approximately 243 feet north of Martin Street, is 2.5 acres. And the companion bill, which is BL 2022-1484 by Sledge and Allen, ordinance to authorize building material restrictions requirements for BL 2022-1483. Proposed ordinance requires certain materials to be restricted in the construction of buildings. Councilmember Sledge, you are recognized.
Thank you, Vice Mayor. Please open the public hearing.
Okay, declare the public hearing open. A show of hands of those who are here in favor of this measure. Okay. Show of hands of those who are here in opposition to this measure. Don't see anybody in opposition. Those in favor wish to speak? All right. Declare the public hearing closed. Councilmember Sledge, you're recognized.
Thank you, Vice Mayor. Move approval.
Councilmember Sledge has moved approval of both BL 2022-1483 and 1484 for passage on second reading. Properly seconded. Any discussion on the two bills? Seeing none, all those in favor of BL 2022-1483 and 1484 for passage on second reading say aye.
Aye.
Opposed, no. Both bills passed. Thank you, Councilmember Sledge. We are on item number 6, BL 2022-1502 by Councilmembers Van Reese and Allen. Ordinance to amend Title 17 by change from CS to MUG ANS zoning for properties located at 3101, 3105 Dickerson Pike, northeast corner of Dickerson Pike and Broadmoor Drive. Councilmember Van Reese, you're recognized on the bill.
Yes, I need to defer this to the first meeting in February.
I believe that there was a notice problem with these things. Is that my understanding?
Probably, yes.
Okay, so it automatically will be deferred to the first meeting in February.
Thank you.
All right. We're on item number 7, BL 2022-1525 by Councilmember Hancock. Ordinance to amend Title 17 by change from RS 7.5 to R20 zoning. Property located at 313 Delaware Avenue, approximately 130 feet north of Burwood Avenue. Councilmember Hancock, you're recognized on your bill.
I'd like to open the public hearing, please.
Okay, so declare the public hearing open. Show of hands of those who are here in favor of this measure. Show of hands of those who are here in opposition of this measure. Seeing nobody either way, declare the public hearing closed. Councilmember Hancock, you're recognized on your bill.
I'd like to move to approve.
The motion is to approve, properly seconded. Any discussion on the bill? This is on second reading. Seeing none, all those in favor of the bill say aye. Opposed, no. Bill passes on second reading. Item number 8, BL 2022-1531 by Councilmember Toombs. Ordinance amending Section 17.16.03 of the Metropolitan Code to require notice to surrounding property owners for adaptive residential development. Councilmember Toombs, you are recognized.
Thank you, Mr. Vice Mayor. Request to open the public hearing.
Okay, declare the public hearing open. A show of hands of those who are here in favor of the measure. Show of hands of those who are here in opposition to the measure. Seeing nobody on either side, declare the public hearing closed. Councilmember Toombs, recognized on your bill.
Move for approval.
Okay, the motion is to approve, properly seconded. Any discussion on the bill? Seeing none, ready to vote. All those in favor say aye. Opposed, no. Motion passes. We're on item number 9, BL 2022-1558, which can be taken with item number 10, BL 2022-1559. These are both by Councilmember Van Rees. 1558, an ordinance to amend Title 17 by change from RS10 to SP zoning on a portion of property located at 3300 and 3344 Walton, and on properties located at 3302, 3304, 3306, 3308, 3312 Walton Lane and Walton Lane unnumbered. And then the companion bill, BL 2022-1559, ordinance to authorize building material restrictions requirements for BL 2022-1558. Proposed ordinance requires certain materials to restrict in the construction of buildings. Councilmember Van Rees, you're recognized.
Yes, sir. Due to circumstances, we're going to change this project up, and I'm going to need to go ahead and withdraw 1558 and 1559, and you will see it in its new improved form in the near future.
Okay, so both the bills are withdrawn, correct?
Yes, sir.
Okay, 9 and 10 withdrawn. Thank you. Okay, item number 11, BL 2022-1570 by Councilmember Taylor and Withers, and that can be taken with item number 46. 1570, an ordinance to amend Title 17 by changing from RM20 to SP zoning for a portion of property located at 3138, property at 3140 Parthenon Avenue, approximately 119 feet east of Oman Street. And then item number 46, which is on page 20 of my calendar, is the last bill on public hearings. BL 2022-1629, it's a companion bill. Ordinance to authorize building material restrictions and requirements for BL 2022-1570. Proposed ordinance requires certain materials to be restricted in the construction of buildings. Councilmember Withers, you're recognized. Okay.
Thank you, Vice Mayor Schulman. I would like to open the public hearing, please.
Yeah, we got to get the substitute apparently on item number 46.
Oh, that's right. Yes, sorry about that.
All right, so Councilmember Withers is moving the substitute on BL 2022-1629, properly seconded. Do you need help on what the substitute does?
If you don't mind, calling on
okay.
planning.
Director Darby?
I think we call the planning table.
Oh. I'm going to go to the planning table. Ms. Milligan. There you go.
This is a correction on the case number in the caption.
That's right.
The address was correct. It was noticed properly on the materials bill only. And so it's just a correction to get the appropriate SP number into the caption.
Okay. All right. So that's the explanation of the substitute. Councilmember Withers has moved the substitute. Again, properly seconded. Discussion on the substitute. Seeing none, all those in favor of the substitute say aye.
Aye.
Opposed, no. Okay, so you've got the bill, you've got BL 2022-1629 as substituted. We're back on BL 2022-1570. Okay, you ready for the public hearing now?
I believe so.
Declare the public hearing open on 1570 and on item number 46, which was 1629. The public hearing is open. A show of hands of those who are here in favor of those two measures. Okay. A show of hands of those who are here in opposition to those two measures. All right, we've got hands on both sides. Those in favor wishing to speak, if you'd come forward. Need your name, address, and then you'll need 2 minutes in which to speak.
Thank you, Vice Mayor, Council members. John Cooper, 711 Chesterfield Way, Nashville, 37212. I'm here representing Charlie Phillips and his company, Volunteer Builders. This is a very unique transaction that was actually initiated by Metro Parks. Mr. Phillips owns a parcel of property right next to the Centennial Park Dog Park. It is surrounded by Parks property. Metro Parks wanted to consolidate the two development lots and move the development further down to free up more contiguous park area. This was about a year ago that this process started, and so in exchange for the time that it's taken and giving up a more premium lot, This seeks to rezone to SP to match the density on the other side of Parthenon Avenue, as well as to incorporate all of the design standards from the Long Boulevard UDO. It will also prohibit all short-term rentals. It was approved by the Planning Commission and has been approved by the Parks Board and the Parks Acquisition Committee, and we request your approval.
All right. Thank you, Mr. Cooper. Next speaker.
Hello, my name is Charlie Phillips, local developer home builder, and we'll be grateful for your support tonight. Thank you very much.
All right. Thank you, Mr. Phillips. All right. Anybody else wishing to speak in favor? Seeing none, those who are in opposition, if you'd come on forward. Name, address, and you have 2 minutes in which to speak.
My name is Austin Kirby. I'm an attorney representing a family at 3178 Parthenon Avenue. The concerns that the family has are essentially that the buildings as designed as a 10 multi-home family are going in on a street that is already de facto single lane because of the side street parking, just like every other road in Nashville right now. There's not enough parking on the street for the people that already presently live here. And we're talking about adding 10 multi-family homes on essentially 2 lots. As the plans as presented so far that I've seen do not indicate that there's to be adequate parking as part of this bill. So we're talking about putting in potentially 20 to 30 more cars on a permanent basis on our very narrow road that sees fairly common truck traffic as well as other traffic. There's already been a number of homes developed on this very street that, as well as apartment and residential complexes that contribute to this problem already. You get young professionals and college kids parking, hanging out halfway into the street already, and if there's not adequate parking to the to any new bills that go in, you're just going to be contributing to that problem and creating a nuisance for the residents that already live there. If, as part of this bill, there is adequate parking added per the plans for the 10 multifamily units, then the families I represent would have no opposition. But as it stands currently, they would be in opposition to something that can create both a parking as well as a safety hazard for their community. Thank you for your time.
All right. Thank you, Mr. Kirby. Anybody else wishing to be heard on this one? All right. Declare the public hearing closed. Councilmember Withers, you're recognized.
Thank you, Mr. Vice Mayor. I'd like to move approval with a brief comment.
All right. Now, you do have an amendment that needs to go on to 1570.
Should we go ahead and take the amendment first?
Yeah, go ahead and take the amendment first.
Okay, I'd like to move the amendment.
Okay, I got a motion to approve the amendment on 1570, properly seconded. Explanation of the amendment.
The amendment adds the requirement of a type B3 buffer yard to the basin.
Okay. Okay, so you've heard an explanation of the amendment to BL 2022-1570. Again, it was properly seconded. Any questions on the amendment? Seeing none, all those in favor of the amendment say aye.
Aye.
Opposed, no. Amendment's adopted on 1570. Now you're on BL 2022-1570 as amended, and BL 2022-1629 as substituted. Councilmember Withers, you're recognized.
Thank you, Mr. Vice Mayor. Actually, could I call on the Planning Department for 2 questions? I would like to move approval.
Okay, so the motion is to approve both those measures on second reading, properly seconded. Back to you, but you have a question for Ms. Milligan. That's fine.
Yes, thank you. Would Ms. Milligan be able to confirm what the surrounding zoning districts are like?
Sure. So across the street from this property, properties are zoned RM40, which is generally consistent with the zoning that's being requested in this location, except this would be an SP. The surrounding properties on this side of the street are RM20, which is multifamily 20 units per acre. Across the street is also a UDO, urban design overlay, which includes standards regarding the construction and aesthetics of the buildings. And this SP, if approved and applied to this property, would apply the same standards that apply to the UDO to this property. So it's a mixture of RM20 and RM40. Yeah.
Thank you for that. And my related question, my understanding from the Planning Commission's public hearing was that the density is consistent with surrounding properties. However, I think the sort of bulk zoning standards are basically the same. This would just include a larger number of units potentially within the same overall bulk zoning standards.
Yes. So essentially what could be built under RM20 could be the same size and height and configuration of what could be built under RM40. It's just the number of units that would be different. So yes, the massing and things, and what this SP provides that's not provided under RM20 is the architectural standards that are applicable to the properties that are on the south side of Parthenon within the 31st and Long UDO. Correct. So the bulk and massing likely doesn't change that much from what's proposed. It's just the number of units that changes.
Okay, thank you so much for that discussion. I will share with colleagues that the Planning Commission public hearing on this was quite lively. We had lots of neighbors that were out at the time. It's my understanding that Councilmember Taylor has worked with a lot of those neighbors through subsequent community meetings. This item also happened to come before the Parks Acquisition Committee at the same time I was working on my Laughlin Springs item, so I was able to be there for the discussion at Parks as well. I just want to reiterate that this is a land swap that was initiated by Metro Parks. Also, the parcel that the gentleman owns currently already has zoning entitlements, so we are not sort of allowing housing where something could not take place already. The property owner has been willing to work with Metro Parks and has foregone approximately a year of time when he could have developed his property out of a willingness to work with Metro Parks. Of course, Metro Parks would love to acquire the property, to be honest, but they do not have the funding to do that. So in consideration of this property owner's work with the Metro Parks Department and with Councilmember Taylor's work with many of the surrounding neighbors there on Parthenon, I would renew my motion to approve, and when Councilmember Taylor returns to us next time, we can have any remaining discussion at the Planning and Zoning Committee.
Okay, thank you, Councilmember Withers. So the motion is to approve both those, both measures on second reading. It was properly seconded. Any other discussion on these two? Seeing none, all those in favor of passage of these two measures on second reading, say aye. Opposed, no. Both those measures pass. Thank you. Item number 12, BL 2022-1578 by Councilmember Sledge. Ordinance to amend Title 17 by change from IWD to MULA NS zoning for properties located at 1276, 1278, 1282, 1284, 1286, 1288, 1290, 1302, 1306, and 1308. 4th Avenue South and 4th Avenue South, unnumbered, approximately 239 feet northeast of Zimmerly Street. Councilmember Sledge, you're recognized.
Thank you, Vice Mayor. Please open the public hearing.
Declare the public hearing open. Show of hands of those who are here in favor of this measure. Show of hands of those who are here in opposition to this measure. Didn't see anybody, no hands on either side. Declare the public hearing closed. Councilmember Sledge, you're recognized.
Thank you, Vice Mayor. Move approval.
Okay. Councilmember Sledge moves to the approval of BL 2022-1578. Properly seconded. Any discussion on the measure? Seeing none, ready to vote. All those in favor of 1578, say aye.
Aye.
Opposed, no. You adopt. Item number 13, BL 2022-1594 by Councilmember Toombs. Ordinance to amend Title 17 by changing from RS 7.5 to R10 zoning for property located at 1236 North Avondale Circle, approximately 627 feet west of Hampton Street, 0.28 acres. Councilmember Toombs, you're recognized.
Thank you, Mr. Vice Mayor. Request to open the public hearing.
Declare the public hearing open. A show of hands of those who are here in favor of this measure. Okay. Show of hands of those who are here in opposition to this measure. Don't see anybody in opposition. Those in favor wish to speak? All right. Declare the public hearing closed. Councilmember Toombs, you're recognized.
Move for approval.
Motion is to approve. Properly seconded. Any discussion? Seeing none, we're ready to vote. All those in favor of passage of BL 2022-1594 for passage on second reading, say aye. Opposed, no. Bill passes on second reading. We're on BL 2022-1595 by Councilmember Sledge and O'Connell. Ordinance to amend Title 17 by amending an SP on property located at 1267 3rd Avenue South at the corner of 3rd Avenue South and Hart Street, zone SP, 0.96 acres. Councilmember Sledge, you're recognized.
Thank you, Vice Mayor. Please open the public hearing.
Declare the public hearing open. A show of hands of those who are here in favor of this measure. Okay, show of hands of those who are here in opposition to this measure. Don't see anybody in opposition. Those in favor wish to speak? Answer is no. Declare the public hearing closed. Councilmember Sledge recognized.
Thank you, Vice Mayor. Move approval.
Councilmember Sledge moves approval of 1595 for passage on second reading. Properly seconded. Any discussion? Seeing none. All those in favor of 1595 for passage on second reading say aye. Opposed, no. Bill passes on second reading. BL 2022-1596, this is item number 15 by Councilmember O'Connell, an ordinance to amend Title 17 by change from MUIA to SP zoning for properties located at 1414 Church Street and 210, 212, 216, 218, 220 15th Avenue North, approximately 220 feet west of 14th Avenue North. Councilmember O'Connell, you're recognized.
Thank you, Mr. President. I'd like to open the public hearing, please.
Declare the public hearing open. A show of hands of those who are here in favor of BL 2022-1596. Show of hands of those who are in favor. Okay. Show of hands of those who are here in opposition to the bill. I didn't see anybody in opposition. Those in favor wish to speak? Nope. Declare the public hearing closed. Councilmember O'Connell, you're recognized on your bill.
Thank you, Mr. President. I'd like to move approval.
Councilmember O'Connell moves approval of 1596 for passage on second reading. Properly seconded. Any discussion? Seeing none, all those in favor of the bill passing on second reading say aye. Opposed, no. Bill passes on second reading. We're on item number 16, BL 2022-1597 by Councilmember Toombs. Ordinance to amend Title 17 by change from RS10 to R10 zoning for property located at 1720 River Drive, approximately 75 feet southeast of Doak Avenue. It's 0.6 acres. Councilmember Toombs, you're recognized.
Thank you, Mr. Vice Mayor. Request to open the public hearing.
Declare the public hearing open. A show of hands of those who are here in favor of this measure. Show of hands of those who are here in opposition to this measure. Seeing nobody on either side, declare the public hearing closed. Councilmember Toombs, you're recognized.
Move for approval.
Councilmember Toombs has moved for approval of BL 2022-1597, properly seconded. Any discussion on the bill? Seeing none, all those in favor of BL 2022-1597 passes on second reading say aye.
Aye.
Opposed, no. Bill passes on second reading. Item number 17, BL 2022-1598 by Councilmember Sledge, O'Connell, and Cash. Can be taken with item number 18. Item number 17, BL 2022-1598. Ordinance to amend Title 17 by changing a specific plan on property located at 2212 12th Avenue South, approximately 141 feet south of Lawrence Avenue, zoned SP. And the companion bill, BL 2022-1599. Ordinance to authorize building material restrictions and requirements for BL 2022-1598. Proposed ordinance requires certain materials to be restricted in the construction of buildings. Councilmember Sledge, you're recognized on your two bills.
Thank you, Vice Mayor. Open the public hearing, please.
Declare the public hearing open. A show of hands of those who are here in favor of these two measures. All right. A show of hands of those who are here in opposition of these two measures. Don't see anybody in opposition. Those in favor wish to speak. Okay. Declare the public hearing closed. Councilmember Sledge, recognized on both your bills.
Thank you, Vice Mayor. Move approval.
So Councilmember Sledge has moved approval of both BL 2022-1598 and 1599 for passes on second reading. That's the motion, properly seconded. Any discussion on those two measures? Seeing none, all those in favor of the two bills say aye. Opposed, no. Both those bills pass. We're on item number 19, BL 2022-1600 by Councilmember O'Connell. Ordinance to amend Title 17 by change from CF to SP zoning for properties located at 1503, 1509, 1511, 1515, and 1517 McGavick Street, located at the southwest corner of 14th Avenue South and McGavick Street, and located within the Arts Center Redevelopment Overlay District and the Music Row Urban Design Overlay District. Councilmember O'Connell, you're recognized on your bill.
Thank you, Mr. President. I'd like to open the public hearing.
Declare the public hearing open. A show of hands of those who are here in favor of 1600. Okay. Show of hands of those who are here in opposition to 1600. Seeing nobody in opposition, those in favor wish to speak. Declare the public hearing closed. Councilmember O'Connell, you're recognized on your bill.
Thank you, Mr. President. I'd like to move approval of brief comment.
Okay. Councilmember O'Connell has moved approval of Bill 2022-1600. Passes on second reading, properly seconded.
Yeah, that's not. So I think to Matthew's point, and I'll ask him to correct me if I'm wrong about this, I think we can pass this on second tonight. There is a materials bill that it has to track with, and I think we'll defer third reading in order to get there. So we can pass on second tonight, but I will anticipate deferring third reading. Is that correct, Matthew? All right, there you go.
You don't want to defer to, you'll deal with it when it comes up. Okay.
Yeah, we'll defer third reading the second meeting in February, but I believe we can pass it tonight.
Okay. Do you want to go ahead and make that into your motion?
I can do that, yeah.
That's what I was asking. Okay. So the motion is to pass tonight on second reading and defer third reading
to the second meeting in February.
Second meeting in February. Okay.
And that is because it needs to track with the companion materials bill, which had a filing issue, I guess.
Okay. Everybody good? Okay, that's the motion, properly seconded. Councilmember O'Connell, any more discussion on this one? Okay, you've got the motion in front of you. Any discussion? Seeing none, all those in favor of the motion, it's to pass tonight on second reading, defer third meeting to the second meeting in February. That's the motion, properly seconded. Any discussion? Seeing none, all those in favor of the motion say aye. Opposed, no. You adopt. We're on item number 20, BL 2022-1601 by Councilmember Toombs. Ordinance to amend Title 17 by change from R8 to R6 zoning for property located at 1022 Alice Street, approximately 141 feet southeast of River Pearl Place. Councilmember Toombs, you're recognized.
Thank you, Mr. Vice Mayor. Request to open the public hearing.
Declare the public hearing open. A show of hands of those who are here in favor of this measure. Show of hands of those who are here in opposition to this measure. Seeing no one who, somebody, wait a minute, Councilmember O'Connell, you can't vote back there. I mean, Councilmember Parker, you can't. I know, I'm sorry. I thought you all looked alike. I saw a hand, it's like, wait a minute. Councilmember Parker, do you want to speak on this measure?
I'm just here for form at this point.
Okay, thank you. All right. I saw nobody on either side except for Councilmember Parker. Yes. I'm sorry. Councilmember O'Connell, you got your name on here so many times that it just keeps flowing out of my mouth. I declare the public hearing closed. Councilmember Toombs, you're recognized.
Move for approval.
The motion is to approve Bill 2022-1601 for passage, properly seconded. Any discussion? Seeing none, we're on Bill 2022-1601 for passage on second reading. All those in favor say aye. Opposed, no. Bill passes on second reading. We're on BL 2022-1602 by Councilmember Sledge and O'Connell. Can be taken with item number, this is item 21, BL 2022-1602. Can be taken with item 22, BL 2022-1603. BL 2022-1602 by Sledge and O'Connell. Ordinance to amend Title 17 by change from IWD to SP zoning on properties located at 521 and 525 Hagen Street at the corner of Merritt Avenue and Hagen Street. And BL 2022-1603, the companion bill. Ordinance to authorize building material restrictions and requirements for BL 2022-1602. Proposed ordinance requires certain materials to be restricted in the construction of buildings. Councilmember Sledge, you're recognized on the two bills.
Thank you, Vice Mayor. Please open the public hearing.
Declare the public hearing open on both those two bills, 1602 and 1603. Show of hands of those who are here in favor of those two measures. All right, thank you. A show of hands of those who are here in opposition to those two measures. All right, we have hands on both sides. Anybody wishing to speak in favor, if you would come on down. Go ahead and line up. Need name, address, and then you'll have 2 minutes in which to speak.
Hi, I'm David Lawrence at 2810 Hillside Drive, 37212. I'm speaking on behalf of the property owner. For a little context on this site, we are active in Wedgwood, Houston on a number of projects in the neighborhood.
Mr. Lawrence, you may want to move that microphone a little closer. There you go. Thank you.
Thank you. On this one, this is a site we've owned since 2019 and have talked with various members of the community for a number of years and had a community meeting in October to collect neighborhood feedback and work through any issues we needed to work through. We feel like we've made a lot of progress speaking with members of the community and really addressed a lot of key concerns that related to this development. There are some elements we might hear of that we have not yet addressed, but what we've committed to do is continue to work with the neighborhood to address those. The project we are trying to build is consistent with precedent in the neighborhood and planning policy. And more importantly, what it's going to enable us to do is make a meaningful improvement to infrastructure improvements in the neighborhood tied to the development of this specific project. So we request consideration to move forward with the development as proposed, and thank you everyone for the time.
All right, thank you, Mr. Lawrence. Next speaker, name, address, 2 minutes.
Sam Weibel, 105 Taggart Avenue, speaking on behalf of the owner. As the architect, after a year-long process with planning and council, worked through a lot of nuances to deal with the active liner on both Merritt and Hagen. And essentially, this is an extension of what was approved to the development just to the east. And therefore, we recommend approval of this. Thank you.
Okay, thank you. Anybody else wishing to speak in favor of this measure? All right, those in opposition, if you would, come on up. Name, address, 2 minutes in which to speak.
Vince Romanelli, 616A Hamilton. 7 years ago, I stood in front of the council to beg to be able to make small additions to my 800-square-foot home. And today, from that exact same property, there are 6 giant developments towering over the additions that I had to beg for. We're literally surrounded by relentless, disrespectful, life-sucking developers that have no concern for our well-being. I've learned in therapy that there are facts and feelings. Fact, 37203 is a federal opportunity zone. Feeling, the neighborhood is being poorly mismanaged and taking advantage of the residents' helplessness. Fact, developers can hold and receive tax cuts while not having to pay capital gains when they sell. Feeling, what makes a neighborhood? Is it the buildings or the people that have lived there and established the community? It's not fair that longtime residents will not be given the same luxury. Fact, there are rules and codes for when work and noise can happen. Double fact, they're not obeyed and there's nothing that we can do to stop it. Newer, taller buildings does not make a neighborhood better. Resources and community do. Give us sidewalks, give us stop signs, show that you care, manage traffic. Show us that you care about actual neighborhood betterment, not just filling space. There's absolutely no courtesy or direct benefit to us. There's no concern for our interests, our issues. Our taxes are raised, and then we're taxed when we sell. My concrete slab is cracked. I bought multiple tires due to screws. I've been clinically diagnosed with sleep anxiety, and I have impenetrable layers of debris covering my home directly due to this development. It's sad to be in a situation where our choices are being made that directly affect our lives, yet no one cares or asks. It seems like there will be continued efforts to make choices based on capitalism and not looking out for the well-being of the neighbors. When you're rich, rules don't apply. With the council's aid, developers are creating and bypassing rules and regulations in order to save the most money with the least amount of pushback, all while taking advantage of those who have lived here the longest. We're living the plot to a real-life Avatar, but in this movie, the bad guys win. Please oppose this bill. Thank you.
All right, thank you, Mr. Romanelli. Next speaker, name, address.
Hi, my name is Andrew Horowitz, and I live at 616B Hamilton. I'm also in opposition to this bill. In the last couple of years, the WeHo area has gone from longtime residents and artists to an opportunity zone developer playground. That's gentrification, but the city has failed to protect the area and adapt to the exploding population. By my count, there are 6 developments in the works totaling close to 1,200 additional rental units. In addition, there's the new soccer stadium, the NASCAR racetrack, and a 4,500-person venue. 0 road improvements, few sidewalks, no new stop signs, traffic lights, traffic mitigation, no neutral noise studies, public parking, updated garbage and recycling plans, and no concern for the residents. Just a couple of days ago, my neighbor, who has lived there for 35 years, was pulling out of his house on Hamilton, and his car was smashed by a motorist who had no reason to slow down because these roads weren't built for traffic, and this is happening all the time. It took the police 2 hours to respond because the police don't have the resources to respond sooner. No research by even the finest city planners can predict what this area will look like or if it'll even function because it's too premature to know. While we head towards an economic downturn nationwide and an oversaturation of new buildings in WeHo, we have no reason to believe that another mixed-use commercial building will further benefit the area. The developer doesn't live here, and this is about money, not quality of life. Furthermore, building a 6-story tower will effectively create a wall between one side of WeHo and the rest. This destroys the view and property value of myself and my neighbors, not to mention prolongs the infinite cycle of new construction that operates on a do now, answer for later. In my experience, developers say what they need to get the job done. My house experienced daily earthquakes from daily explosions, perhaps legal, but detrimental to my house's foundation and my household's mental health. If you plan to greenlight another 6-story commercial eyesore, please have good reason beyond making another out-of-town developer rich.
Thank you, Mr. Horowitz. Anybody else wishing to speak in opposition to this, these two bills? All right, declare the public hearing closed. Councilmember Sledge, you're recognized.
Thank you, Vice Mayor. I'll move approval with a brief comment.
All right, the motion is to approve both 1602 and 1603. Properly seconded. Back to you.
Thank you, and I do appreciate my neighbors coming and speaking. We live just a block away from each other, and they have been in the middle of development for the last 24 to 28 months, and I can empathize with that. Regarding this specific development, this is sort of the corner of a development that is kind of the last phase of a development that's been ongoing, known as the Finery. This development here, to their point about direct benefits, I've actually negotiated with the developer to put in a 6-figure contribution to the Chestnut Street bike lanes that'll be developed this spring. I have worked with multiple developers on that to actually procure more than $1 million in direct contributions to that project in order to get it going. This is an area with no infrastructure. Hagen Street and Merritt Avenue, where this is, was very industrial. This is where a former old tow lot used to be. Because of this development and other developments that are coming in, there is stormwater going in, there are sidewalks that are going in, there's curb and gutter. These are things that this area just simply has not had. Again, I totally empathize living right next to one of these developments as well. It's been tough. Thankfully, one of these developments that's unrelated is going to wrap up in the next few months. We're coming to the end of a lot of phases of these developments, so I do appreciate everyone's patience, and I do empathize with the struggles that have come with that. I do want to emphasize, though, that I hear the direct benefit piece. This is an opportunity zone, and quite frankly, it is one of the most attractive opportunity zones in the country. And as a result, I have tried to leverage that for the community as much as I can, specifically with infrastructure, and then ongoing with other negotiations on a separate development. The neighborhood had negotiated several different items, including a new playground for families. I just got the photos today of the playground equipment that'll be installed in the next couple months. We are trying to take that opportunity zone and create opportunities for ourselves. It's tough, but it's. I think the fruit of that is going to be born in the next year, the next couple of years, and I do just appreciate my neighbors' patience in that, and I feel your frustrations. With that, I would move approval, Vice Mayor.
All right. Councilmember Sledge has moved approval on second reading of both BL 2022-1602 and 1603. They were both properly seconded. Discussion on those two bills. All right, seeing none, we're ready to vote. All those in favor of BL 2022-1602 and 1603 for passes on second reading say aye.
Aye.
Opposed, no. Both those bills pass on second reading. We're on item number 23, BL 2022-1604 by Councilmember O'Connell. Ordinance to amend Title 17 by applying an urban design overlay to various properties starting at the corner of Broadway and 16th Avenue North, Zone MUI-A. Councilmember O'Connell, you're recognized on your bill.
Thank you, Mr. President. I'd like to open the public hearing.
Declare the public hearing open. A show of hands of those who are here in favor of 1604. Okay. Show of hands of those who are here in opposition to 1604. Seeing nobody in opposition, those in favor wish to speak. Declare the the public hearing closed. Councilmember O'Connell, you're recognized.
Thank you, Mr. President. Move approval.
Councilmember O'Connell has moved to approval of BL 2022-1604, properly seconded. This is for passage on second reading. Any discussion on the motion? Seeing none, all those in favor say aye. Opposed, no. BL 2022-1604 passes on second reading. BL 2022-1605 by Councilmember Toombs. Ordinance to amend Title 17 by change from IWD to MUG NS zoning for property located at 2 Vantage Way at the corner of Great Circle Road and Vantage Way. Councilmember Toombs, you're recognized.
Thank you, Mr. Vice Mayor. Request to open the public hearing.
Declare the public hearing open. A show of hands of those who are here in favor of 1605. All right, thank you. A show of hands of those who are here in opposition to 1605. Don't see anybody in opposition. Those in favor wish to speak. Okay, declare the public hearing closed. Councilmember Toombs, you're recognized.
Move for approval.
Councilmember Toombs has moved for approval of BL 2022-1605 for passage on second reading. Properly seconded. Any discussion? Seeing none, all those in favor of the bill say aye. Opposed, no. BL 2022-1605 passes on second reading. We're on BL 2022-1606. This is item number 25 by Councilmember Sledge and O'Connell. Ordinance to amend Title 17 by change from IR to MULA NS zoning for property located at 1215 4th Avenue South, approximately 188 feet east of Brown Street. Councilmember Sledge, you're recognized.
Thank you, Vice Mayor. Please open the public hearing.
Okay, declare the public hearing open. A show of hands of those who are here in favor of this bill. Okay, thank you. A show of hands of those who are here in opposition to this bill. Seeing nobody in opposition, those in favor wish to speak. Seeing nobody coming up, declare the public hearing closed. Councilmember Sledge, you're recognized on your bill.
Thank you, Vice Mayor. I move approval.
Councilmember Sledge moves approval of BL 2022-1606, properly seconded. Any discussion on the bill? Seeing none, all those in favor say aye.
Aye.
Opposed, no. Bill passes on second reading. We're on item number 26, BL 2022-1607 by Councilmember O'Connell. Ordinance to amend Title 17 by change from CS to MULA in the zoning for properties located at 1407 Milson Street, 1402, 1404, 1406, 1410, and 1412 Joe Johnston Avenue, approximately 50 feet west of 14th Avenue North. Councilmember O'Connell, you're recognized on your bill.
Thank you, Mr. President. Need to move to defer this indefinitely, please.
Okay, so the motion is to defer indefinitely BL 2022-1607, properly seconded. Any discussion on the motion to defer indefinitely? Seeing none, motion to defer indefinitely. All those in favor say aye. Oh, no. This one's deferred indefinitely. Item number 27, BL 2022-1608 by Councilmember Toombs. Ordinance to amend Title 17 by change from RS10 to R10 zoning for properties located at 1900 and 1904 Ashton Avenue, approximately 245 feet west of Manchester Avenue. Councilmember Toombs, you're recognized on your bill.
Thank you, Mr. Vice Mayor. Request to open the public hearing.
Declare the public hearing open. A show of hands of those who are here in favor of 1608. Okay, thank you. A show of hands of those who are here in opposition to 1608. Seeing nobody in opposition, sir, would you like to speak? No. Declare the public hearing closed. Councilmember Toombs, you're recognized on your bill.
Thank you. I would like to move for approval on second and defer third reading for one meeting.
Okay, so we would have third reading of the bill on the first meeting in February. Okay, that's the motion, properly seconded. Any discussion on the motion? Seeing none, all those in favor say aye. Opposed, no. Motion passes. BL 2022-1609, item number 28. Councilmember Parker, ordinance to amend Title 17 by change from MULA to SP zoning for property located at 2631 and 2635 Gallatin Avenue, corner of Carolyn Avenue and Gallatin Pike. It's 0.19 acres. Councilmember Parker, you're recognized on your bill.
Thank you, Vice Mayor. I believe there might have been a notice issue with this bill.
Yeah, I believe that's right. So it automatically will be deferred to the first meeting in February. Okay.
Alrighty, thank you.
Okay, thank you. We're on BL 2022-1610 by Councilmember Taylor and Withers. Ordinance to amend Title 17 of the Metropolitan Code by change from RS5 to RM20 ANS zoning for properties located at 709 40th Avenue North and 40th Avenue North, unnumbered, approximately 89 feet south of Clifton Street. Councilmember Withers, you're recognized on the bill.
Thank you, Mr. Vice Mayor. I'd like to open the public hearing, please.
Declare the public hearing open. A show of hands of those who are here in favor of 1610. All right, thank you. A show of hands of those who are here in opposition to 1610. Don't see anybody in opposition. Those in favor wish to speak? Okay, declare the public hearing closed. Councilmember Withers, you're recognized on the bill.
I'd like to move approval.
Okay, Councilmember Withers moves approval of BL 2022-1610 for passage on second reading, properly seconded. Any discussion on the bill? Seeing none, all those in favor of BL 2022-1610 for passage on second reading say aye. Opposed, no. BL 2022-1610 passes on second reading. Item number 30, BL 2022-1611 by Councilmember Toombs. Ordinance to amend Title 17 by changing from RS 10 to R10 zoning for property located at 1909 Ashton Avenue, approximately 243 feet south of John Mallett Drive. Councilmember Toombs, you're recognized on your bill.
Thank you, Mr. Vice Mayor. Request to open a public hearing.
Declare the public hearing open on 1611. Show of hands of those who are here in favor of that bill. All right, thank you. Show of hands of those who are here in opposition to that bill. Seeing nobody in opposition, sir, would you like to speak? Nope. Declare the public hearing closed. Councilmember Toombs, you're recognized on your bill.
Thank you. I'd like to move for approval on second and defer third reading to the first meeting in February.
Okay. Motion is to approve tonight on second and have third reading on the first meeting in February. That's the motion, properly seconded. Any discussion? Seeing none, all those in favor of the motion say aye. Opposed, no. Motion is adopted. Thank you. Item number 31, BL 2022-1612 by Councilmember Parker. Ordinance to amend Title 17 by change from CS to CS/NS zoning for properties located at 1302, 1308 Dickerson Pike, northwest corner of Ligon Avenue and Dickerson Pike, and located within the Skyline Redevelopment District and Dickerson Pike Sign Urban Design Overlay District. Councilmember Parker, you're recognized on your bill.
Thank you, Vice Mayor. I'd like to open the public hearing.
Declare the public hearing open. A show of hands of those who are here in favor of that particular measure. All right, thank you. A show of hands of those who are here in opposition to that measure. Don't see anybody in opposition. Those in favor wish to speak? Nope. Declare the public hearing closed. Councilmember Parker, you're recognized on your bill.
Thank you, Vice Mayor. I'd like to move for approval.
Okay, Councilmember Parker moves approval of BL 2022-1612. Passage on second reading, properly seconded. Any discussion? Seeing none, all those in favor of BL 2022-1612 for passage on second reading say aye. I heard one aye.
Aye.
There you go. Opposed, no. Bill passes on second reading. BL 2022-1613 by Councilmember Taylor and Withers. Ordinance to amend Title 17 by change from CS to MUIA zoning. Property located at 1926 Hay Street, northeast corner of 20th Avenue North and Hay Street. Councilmember Withers, you're recognized on the bill.
Thank you, Mr. Vice Mayor. I'd like to open the public hearing, please.
Declare the public hearing open. A show of hands of those who are here in favor of 1613. Show of hands of those who are here in opposition to 1613. Don't see anybody on either side. Declare the public hearing closed. Councilmember Withers, you're recognized on the bill.
Thank you, Mr. Vice Mayor. I'd like to move approval.
All right, Councilmember Withers moves approval of 1613 for passes on second reading, properly seconded. Any discussion? Seeing none, all those in favor of 1613 for passes on second reading say aye. Aye. Opposed, no. Bill passes on second reading. Item number 33, BL 2022-1614 by Councilmember Toombs. Ordinance to amend Title 17 by changing from RS10 to R10 zoning for property located at 1609 Elizabeth Road, approximately 213 feet north of Ashton Avenue, 0.31 acres. Councilmember Toombs, you're recognized.
Thank you, Mr. Vice Mayor. Request to open a public hearing.
Declare the public hearing open. A show of hands of those who are here in favor of 1614. Thank you. A show of hands of those who are here in opposition to 1614. Don't see anybody in opposition, sir. No? Declare the public hearing closed. Councilmember Toombs, you're recognized.
Thank you. I'd like to move for approval on second and defer third reading to the first meeting in February.
All right, you've heard the motion, properly seconded. Any discussion? Seeing none, all those in favor of the motion say aye. Opposed, no. motion is adopted. BL 2022-1615 is item number 34. This is by Gamble and Van Reese, an ordinance to amend Title 17 by changing a specific plan on property located at West Cap Road, approximately 58 feet north of Old Hickory Boulevard, Zone R15, and SP at 7.9 acres. Councilmember Van Reese, recognized.
Yes, on behalf of Councilmember Gamble, I move to open the public hearing, please.
Okay, declare the public hearing open. A show of hands of those who are here in favor of 1615. Okay, show of hands of those who are here in opposition to 1615. Don't see anybody in opposition. Those in favor wish to speak? Nope. Declare the public hearing closed. Councilmember Van Reese, you recognized on the bill.
Move approval, please.
Councilmember Van Reese moves approval of BL 2022-1615 for passage on second reading, properly seconded. Any discussion? Seeing none, all those in favor of the motion say aye. Opposed, no. You adopt. BL 2022-1616, Councilmember Taylor and Withers. Ordinance to amend Title 17 by changing from RS5 to RM9A zoning for property located at 2803 Torbit Street, approximately 55 feet west of 28th Avenue North. Councilmember Withers, you're recognized on the bill.
Thank you, Mr. Vice Mayor. I'd like to open the public hearing.
All right, declare the public hearing open. A show of hands of those who are here in favor of the measure. We're on BL 2022-1616. Show of hands of those who are here in opposition to the measure. Didn't see hands on either way. Councilmember Withers, declare the public hearing closed. You're
Thank you,
recognized
Mr.
on the
Vice
bill.
Mayor. I'd like to move approval.
Councilmember Withers moves approval of 1616 for passage on second reading, properly seconded. Any discussion on the bill? Seeing none, we're ready to vote. All those in favor of BL 2022-1616 for passage on second reading say aye. Opposed, no. This one passes on second reading. Item number 36, BL 2022-1670, Councilmember Toombs. Ordinance to amend Title 17 by changing from RS 7.5 to R6A zoning for property located at 2404 Old Matthews Road, approximately 157 feet southwest of Trinity Hills Parkway. It's 0.18 acres. Councilmember Toombs, you're recognized on your bill.
Thank you, Mr. Vice Mayor. Request to open the public hearing.
Declare the public hearing open. A show of hands of those who are here in favor of this measure. Okay. Show of hands of those who are here in opposition to this measure. Don't see anybody in opposition. Would you like to speak? Nope. Declare the public hearing closed. Councilmember Toombs, recognized on your bill.
Thank you. I'd like to move for approval on second and defer third reading to the first meeting in February.
All right. You've heard the motion properly seconded. This is on BL 2022-1617. Again, the motion has been made, properly seconded. Any discussion on the motion? Seeing none, all those in favor say aye. Opposed, no. Motion is adopted. We're on item number 37, BL 2022-1620 by Councilmember Toombs. Ordinance to amend Title 17 by changing from IWD and OL to MUG-ANS zoning for property located at 131 French Landing Drive, southeast at the corner of French Landing Drive and Vantage Way. Councilmember Toombs, you're recognized on your bill.
Thank you, Mr. Vice Mayor. Request to open the public hearing.
All right. Declare the public hearing open. Show of hands of those who are here in favor of 1620. All right. Thank you. A show of hands of those who are here in opposition to 1620. Seeing nobody in opposition, those in favor wish to speak? Nope. Declare the public hearing closed. Councilmember Toombs recognized on 1620.
Move for approval.
Councilmember Toombs moves for approval of BL 2022-1620, passage on second reading, properly seconded. Any discussion? Seeing none, all those in favor of BL 2022-1620 for passage on second reading tonight say aye. Opposed, no. Bill passes on second reading. BL 1621 can be taken with 1622. This is by Councilmember Rutherford. An ordinance to amend Title 17 by change from AR2A to SP zoning on properties located at 1094, 1098, 1104, and 1110 Barnes Road, and Barnes Road unnumbered, approximately 36 feet east of Sydney Drive, permits 16 single-family units and 136 detached multifamily units, and BL 2022-1622, that's the companion bill. Ordinance to authorize building material restrictions requirements for BL 2022-1621. Proposed ordinance requires certain materials to be restricted in the construction of buildings. Councilmember Rutherford, you're recognized on both those bills.
Thank you, Mr. President. Open the public hearing.
Declare the public hearing open. A show of hands of those who are here in favor of those two measures. All right. Show of hands of those who are here in opposition to those two measures. I don't see anybody in opposition. Those in favor wish to speak? Okay. Come on up. Name, address, 2 minutes in which to speak.
Hey, everybody. Good evening, neighbors. Twanachik, 5967 Cane Ridge Road. There is a palpable difference. It should be a very obvious difference in the community's response when a developer or a developer's representative is working diligently and earnestly with the community. This should be meaningful to our elected council representatives every time. With this particular development, we're not yet finished, but we're having really good engagement. We hope to be finished in the next 2 weeks. This developer has worked with us on donating easements to metros so that road improvements can happen later on. He's worked on changing the internal road connections so that we can have some real traffic calming by design, and we won't need additional police to run radar on a wide open speedway. And he's had a willingness to engage the community. And again, I will say that we're often quick to come up here and fuss when things are going wrong. So I want to acknowledge when things are going right. Again, we're not to the finish line yet, but this is what it looks like when good communication is happening. Thank you for your time.
All right. The next speaker, name, address, 2 minutes.
My name's Stan Mills. I live across the street from this at 1101 Barnes Road. I'm a member of the Cane Ridge Community Trust and the network, the Neighborhood Network Trust. And as Twana said, we've been working with these guys for well over a year. Dave Martin Development, and Adam Seeger from Dale and Associates. And they've bent over backwards to meet the community standards that we want in this community, because it seems like it's ignored. I mean, I've been there for 4 years. I've been involved with these groups for 4 years, and I've seen developers come in and just do whatever they want. And I think that this city needs a much better urban design program that isn't by parcel. It takes care of an entire area. I know that they don't have impact fees, but at some point, you guys need to get impact fees here so that the developers have more of an investment in this stuff. I know that one of the council persons here last summer brought this up, and it just fell on deaf ears. So I just want to say these guys have done a great job. We've agreed to things verbally, but we want to see this deferred in the third reading if we can't get the things solidified in writing, so that all the things we've worked on over the last year plus are in writing and are set to establish a new direction in the Cane Ridge community. Thank you for your time.
All right, thank you. Next speaker, name, address, 2 minutes.
Thank you, Dave Martin, 1831 12th Avenue South, Nashville. And I'm the developer for this community. And contrary to others, I'm not a life-sucking, out-of-town, rich developer. I actually live here in Nashville. So I wanted to first acknowledge, and I wasn't going to speak, but I do want to acknowledge Twanachik and the Cane Ridge Community Club, as well as Stan Mills and John Stern from the Cane Ridge Community Trust. On behalf of Adam Seger and Dale and Associates, did get a great opportunity over the last 15 or so months and over 20 engagements to work with the community about something we'd be very proud of together. One thing I think all of you should be also proud of is that what we're doing here is a little bit unique, in which we're creating moderately priced homes for home ownership for our Nashvillians, both for locals that are here, as well as first responders, educators, and other people that have challenges now buying homes. We pull multiple nonprofit organizations, as well as including New Level Community Development Corporation, with Terry Skippers, executive directors here in support as well, that are part of this project to help put Nashvillians into homes and transition from affordable housing into attainable housing and to actually own homes. So I'm very proud of that. I'm looking forward to us continually working together and creating more models for this that other developers and communities can follow. Thank you for your time.
All right, thank you. Anybody else wishing to speak? All right, I declare the public hearing closed. Councilmember Rutherford, you're recognized on the two bills.
Thank you again, Mr. President. I want to thank the community members who came out to speak in favor of this legislation. It means a lot in terms of their active engagement and involvement. And I also want to show my appreciation as well to the developer and the kind words that he had to say as well. And with that, I move approval on both bills.
All right. Councilmember Rutherford has moved approval of Bill 2022-1621 and 1622 for passes on second reading. Properly seconded. Any discussion on the two bills? Seeing none, we're ready to vote. All those in favor of Bill 2022-1621 and 1622 for passes on second reading say aye. Opposed, no. Bills pass. We're on item number 40, which can be taken with item number 41. Bill 2022-1623 by Councilmember Van Rees. Ordinance to amend Title 17 by change from SP to SP zoning for properties located at 115 and 121 Hart Lane, approximately 574 feet east of Dickerson Pike, 8.92 acres. And then Bill 2022-1624, that's the companion bill. Ordinance to authorize building material restrictions requirements for Bill 2022-1623. Proposed ordinance requires certain materials to be restricted in the construction of buildings. Councilmember Van Rees, you recognize both those two bills.
Let's go ahead and open the public hearing.
Let's do that. Let's open the public hearing. Show of hands of those who are in favor of 1623 and 1624. All right, thank you. A show of hands of those who are here in opposition of those two bills. Don't see anybody in opposition. Those in favor wish to speak. Seeing none. Declare the public hearing closed. Councilmember Van Rees recognized on those two bills.
I move approval for both of them.
Councilmember Van Rees moves approval of 1623 and 1624 for pass on second reading. Properly seconded. Any discussion? Seeing none, all those in favor of the bills for pass on second reading say aye. I didn't even hear one aye on that one. Okay. All opposed? No? Okay. Bill passes on, those two bills pass on second reading. Item number 42, Bill 2022-1625 by Councilmember Toombs. Ordinance to amend Title 17 by a change from RS10 to R10 zoning for property located at 1613 Elizabeth Road, approximately 216 feet north of Ashton Avenue, 0.37 acres. Councilmember Toombs, you're recognized.
Thank you, Mr. Vice Mayor. Request to open the public hearing.
Declare the public hearing open. Show of hands of those who are here in favor of that measure. All right. Show of hands of those who are here in opposition to that measure. Don't see anybody in opposition, sir. This might be your last chance. Do you want to come up? Nope. Declare the public hearing closed. Councilmember Toombs, you're recognized on your bill.
Move for approval on second and defer third reading to the first meeting in February.
All right. You've heard the motion by Councilmember Toombs, properly seconded. Any discussion on the motion? Seeing none, all those in favor of the motion say aye. Opposed, no. Motion passes. Thanks, Councilmember Toombs. We're on BL 2022-1626, which can be taken with item number 44. This is Roten, Syracuse, and Bradford, and Syracuse, Roten, and Bradford on the second one. 1626, ordinance to amend Title 17 by applying historic landmark overlay district for property located at 2901 and 2910 Elm Hill Pike at the corner of Elm Hill Pike and Hurt Drive, 2913 Harper Place, approximately 75 feet east of Colfax Drive, and then the companion bill, which is BL 2022-1627, ordinance to authorize building material restrictions requirements for BL 2022-1626. Proposed ordinance requires certain materials to restrict in the construction of buildings. Councilmember Syracuse, you recognized on these two bills.
Thank you, Vice Mayor. Open the public hearing, please.
Declare the public hearings open on those two bills. Show of hands of those who are in favor of 1626 and 1627. All right, thank you. A show of hands of those who are here in opposition to 1626 and 1627. Seeing nobody in opposition, ma'am, this is your opportunity, both of you. You've been sitting there very nicely. I've been waiting for your hands to go up. Do you want to speak? Councilmember Syracuse, do you want to make them speak?
I could do that.
No, I don't think they want to come up. Declare the public hearing closed. Councilmember Syracuse, you're recognized on YouTube.
Thank you, Vice Mayor. Move approval.
Councilmember Syracuse moves approval of 1626 and 1627 for passage on second reading. Properly seconded. Any discussion? Seeing none, all those in favor of the two bills say aye. Opposed, no. Bills pass on second reading. Oh, okay. I got it. Item number 45, Bill 2022-1628 by Councilmember Van Rees. Ordinance to amend Title 17 by change from RS10 to RM20A NS zoning for property located at 105 Hart Lane, approximately 390 feet east of Dickerson Pike, 0.31 acres. Councilmember Van Rees, you're recognized on the bill.
We need to defer this because it was not noticed properly.
That's right. So it'll be deferred to the first meeting in February. Okay. And that should take us through the end of bills on public hearing. All right. All right, I'm going to ask our pro tem to come up and handle consent resolutions, but I've been requested by Councilmember Van Rees to bring up RS 2022-1902 first. Go ahead and take it up right now. Any objections to go ahead and taking it up right now in front of the rest of the calendar on a consent? Seeing none, without objection, we are on RS 2022-1902 by Councilmember Van Rees, Benedict Young, and a host of council members. A resolution approving an economic impact plan for the Madison Station Economic Development Area. Councilmember Van Rees, you're recognized on your resolution.
Yes, sir. I need to move. I need to move an amendment, please.
All right. Let me get a Budget and Finance Committee report. Who's got the? Oh, Councilmember Allen, you're recognized.
Thank you, Mr. Vice Mayor. The Budget and Finance Committee recommended 9 in favor, 0 against the amendment, and then 9 in favor, 0 against, both of those for the bill as amended. 9 in favor, 0 against.
All right. Thank you, Councilmember Van Rees, you're recognized.
With all committee reports in, I need to move that amendment, please.
All right. So Councilmember Van Rees is moving an amendment to RS 2022-1902, properly seconded. Back to you for an explanation of the amendment.
Yeah, the amendment is another housekeeping measure that actually made the amendment shorter and clearer.
Sounds good to me. All right. So Councilmember Van Rees is moving the amendment, properly seconded. Any discussion on the amendment? Seeing none, all those in favor of the amendment say aye. Opposed, no. Amendment's on. You're on your resolution as amended.
Yes, sir. I'd like to move for approval with a comment.
Okay. Councilmember Van Rees has moved for approval of RS 2022-1902 as amended, properly seconded. Councilmember Van Rees.
I could not be more happy to be here to talk about this today with, I believe we had 23 co-sponsors, many of whom are present. I appreciate your due diligence in making sure that we reviewed this properly. By 1830, 3 stagecoach lines were running out of town along Haysboro Road, now Gallatin Pike. As the town grew, the Thomas Stratton family would have a son, Madison, who at the age of 21 would continue to expand his land holdings and become a leader in the community. As a large landowner, Madison Stratton sold a portion of his land so that the state could build a railway line connecting Bowling Green, Kentucky and Clarksville, Tennessee. The station was built and was named Madison Station in honor of Madison Stratton. The station later became known as Amqui Station. This past 21st was the 164th anniversary of the charter of the post office called Madison Station in 1857. In 2020, the Madison on My Mind project for Metro Arts and Culture, funded by an NEA grant, reestablished our commitment to storytelling in this place called Madison. We have historic landmarks like the Maybell, the Rainbow Ranch, the cornerstones like the home of Queen Kitty Wells and her beloved Johnny Wright, and over 35 documented Grand Ole Opry musicians who have lived in the 37115. The NEA study showed a thriving creative class that was growing and established Madison. The Madison Station Economic Impact Plan that you have in front of you is inspired by and led by that community. I've been personally working on this vision for over 7 years, and we are now on the cusp of it becoming a reality. Imagine 32 acres where up to 15 acres, 47% of the entire site is parks, open space, and multimodal infrastructure, inspired by the new beautiful Madison Station Boulevard. Imagine 170 new multifamily units at 60 to 80% AMI mixed throughout a walkable community of over 1,694 new homes. Imagine 87,000 square feet of ground floor commercial activated. Imagine 236,000 square feet of modern office space. These are the things that Madison has been imagining now for decades. Now is the time to make the Madisonian Renaissance a reality. An amazing team was assembled to bring this opportunity to us in a thoughtful and physically responsible way. My discussions with Mayor Cooper and his office were positive throughout, and they have offered excellent supportive feedback. I know that Mayor Cooper's promise to see investment outside the urban core and to activate green space is served by this plan. I worked directly with Angie Hubbard, Director of the Housing Division, on getting deep affordability as a benefit of this infrastructure and economic development plan. Clearly, a lot of work has been done that Madison Stratton could never have dreamed of in 1857. But we did. We have. We can. We should. We will see Madison Station come to life and become the catalyst for amazing things still to come. With that, I ask for your continued support and move approval.
All right, thank you, Councilmember Van Rees. A lot of work has been put into this. Councilmember Van Rees has moved for approval of RS 2022-1902 as amended. Again, it was properly seconded. Any discussion on the resolution? Seeing none, we're ready to vote. All those in favor of the resolution say aye. Opposed, no. Resolution as amended is adopted. All right, Councilmember Toombs, if you don't mind.
Is everything on consent? Except 47 and 48. Oh, number 47 and 48. Okay. All right, the following items are on consent. We're on consent resolutions. Resolution 2023-1933, Resolution 2023-1934, 1935, 1936, 1937, 1938, 1939, 1940, 1941, and 1942. Does anything need to come off the consent agenda? Councilman Rosenberg.
Thank you, Madam President. 1937, please.
Does anything else need to come off of the consent agenda? 1941? Anything else? All right, I will read the captions. Starting with Resolution 2023-1933, that's item number 49 on the agenda. We do have matching numbers this time, right? Yours. Because mine was off last time. Your number 49? 49's on page 20. Okay, good. Approves the election of notaries public for Davidson County, sponsor Councilwoman Murphy. Resolution 2023-1934, sponsors Councilman Bradford. Expresses the council's intent for the parcels included in ordinance number 2022-1532, which extended the boundaries of the Urban Services District, be included on the tax rolls for 2022. Resolution 2023-1935, sponsors Roten and Syracuse, approves amendment number 1 to the contract between the Metropolitan Government and Concentra Health Services Incorporated for the provision of medical services. Resolution 2023-1936, sponsors Roten and Syracuse, approves an application for a violent crime intervention fund grant from the Tennessee Department of Finance and Administration, Office of Criminal Justice Programs to the Metropolitan Nashville Police Department to provide funding related to response to and reduction of violent crime in the community for technology updates, police support, and implementation of the Group Violence Intervention Program. Resolution 2023-1938, sponsors Roten and Pulley, approves an application for an Advanced Transportation Technologies and Innovative Mobility Deployment Grant from the U.S. Department of Transportation to the Nashville Department of Transportation and Multimodal Infrastructure to develop a fully instrumented advanced transportation management system with transit signal priority technology along Gallatin Pike to reduce congestion in that corridor. Resolution 2023-1939 authorizes Gully Boys East Nashville LLC to construct and install an area encroachment at 900 Main Street. Sponsors Withers and Pulley. Resolution 2023-1940 sponsors O'Connell, Withers and Pulley, authorizes 411 LLC to construct and install an aerial encroachment at 411 Broadway. And Resolution 2023-1942 sponsors Councilwoman Murphy, recognizes the retirement and service of MPNF Strategic Communications Senior Partner David Fox. Is there anything that needs to come off of the consent agenda? All right, if I can get committee reports, Budget and Finance, Councilwoman Allen.
Thank you, Madam Chair. Budget and Finance recommended approval for all of the things on the consent agenda, which I think includes RS 2023-1934, RS 2023-1936, and RS 2023-1938.
You also have 1935.
1935, yes. Okay. Also, that was also 9 in favor, 0 against.
Okay, thank you. Planning and Zoning, Councilman Withers.
Thank you, Madam Pro Tem. Planning and Zoning met and considered RS 2023-1939 and 1940, and we recommended both of those, 6 in favor, 0 against, 0 abstentions.
Public Health and Safety, Councilman Syracuse.
Thank you, Pro Tem. Public Health and Safety considered RS 2023, 1935, and 1936. Both recommended approval, 7 in favor, 0 against.
Rules, Councilwoman Murphy.
Thank you. 1933, 1941, 1942, 4 in favor, 0 against.
All right. Transportation, Councilman Pulley. Oh. Who's the vice chair?
We've got 1937, 7 in favor, 0 against. All of them that you read were 7 in favor, 0 against.
And Councilwoman Murphy, can you move the consent agenda, please?
I'd like to move the consent agenda.
So, all right, it's been properly moved and seconded. All in favor? Aye. Any noes? Not voting? Motion carries.
All right, thank you, Councilmember Toombs. What came on?
37 and 40.
Still have the item 47.
47. All right, so we're on RS 2022-1901 by Councilmember Roten, Johnston, Syracuse, and others. Resolution adopting the fund balance reserve policies for the Metropolitan Government of National Davidson County. Councilmember Johnston, have you got this one?
I'm sorry, yes. We deferred this one meeting in order to track with the ordinance, I believe.
Right.
And so I would move a one meeting deferral.
Councilmember Allen, Budget and Finance.
Oh, sorry.
Budget and Finance recommended the one meeting deferral, 9 in favor, 0 against.
All right, Councilmember Johnston.
Move a one meeting deferral, please.
Okay, Councilmember Johnston moves the resolution defers it one meeting, properly seconded. Any discussion on the deferral motion? Seeing none, this one's going to be deferred one meeting. All those in favor say aye.
Aye.
Opposed, no. Deferred one meeting. We've already handled item number 48. Okay, which one is next? 53, which is RS 2023-1937 by Councilmember Roten and Pulley. Resolution approving an application for a strengthening mobility and revolutionizing transportation, a SMART grant for the U.S. Department of Transportation and the Metropolitan Government through NDOT to use video and other sensor data to identify safety issues outside of traditional crash reports, implement targeted safety measures and evaluate these measures in downtown Nashville complex multimodal environment. Councilmember Pulley, I think, would have to handle this, and I believe he's out there.
Sponsor?
Yeah. Oh, Councilmember Withers, can you handle this? Your name's not on my list. Councilmember Withers, you're recognized.
For 1937?
1937. We've got you listed as a sponsor.
I am a sponsor. I can move approval of it, but I can't give the committee reports. But
all right. Budget and Finance, Councilmember Allen.
Thank you, Mr. Vice Mayor. Budget and Finance recommended approval, 9 in favor, 0 against.
All right, Transportation Infrastructure, does somebody have that one besides Councilmember Pulley? Councilmember Johnston? Oh, Councilmember Bradford?
RS 2023-1937, it was approved, 7 in favor, none against.
Okay, thank you. Thank you, Councilmember Johnston. I'm going to go to Councilmember Withers.
Thank you. I would renew my motion for approval. Unless
Okay,
there's
so
any
the motion is to approve, properly seconded. Discussion on the resolution, Councilmember Rosenberg.
Thank you, Mr. President. Ms. Darby, this is a grant application, so before anything's actually implemented, it would come back to us, and this doesn't circumvent the need for a public hearing, correct?
Ms. Darby.
The grant agreement should come back before the council. By public hearing, are you referring to?
The addition of surveillance equipment that we don't currently use, the LiDAR.
Yeah, I don't know that I've looked at the definition for surveillance equipment, and I would say that LiDAR does not fall within that definition.
Okay, thank you.
All right, thank you, Councilmember Rosenberg. We have a motion pending by Councilmember Withers to approve RS 2023-1937 for passage. Again, it was properly seconded. Any other discussion? Seeing none, all those in favor say aye. Opposed, no. This resolution is adopted. Anything else get bumped? Okay.
Yes, number 57.
Number 57, RS 2023-1941 by Councilmember Hurt. Resolution honoring Meryl Rose on retirement from News Channel 5. Councilmember Hurt, you're recognized.
Thank you, Mr. President. I just wanted to stand and to recognize Miss Meryl Rose for she was just a beloved figure for Channel 5 and for the whole community at large in Nashville. And I'm just honored to do it, and I ask that we apply Murphy's Law to this. And I do know that we will most likely present this to her in our next meeting in person. She retired, which is hard to believe that she was able to do so, considering that I thought she was so young. But she told me that she was a seasoned woman. So, and she had done her time, but she retired on Friday, and she did it with great style. And I just felt like we needed to recognize all of the long time and hours that she gave to Channel 5 and Talk of the Town.
All right. So the motion is to approve RS 2023-1941 and having everyone who votes in the affirmative list as a sponsor. That's the motion, properly seconded. Any discussion? All right. All those in favor of RS 2023-1941 for passage, say aye. Opposed, no. Resolution is adopted unanimously. All right. Anything else on consent? All right. We're on bills on introduction and first reading. Does anything need to be bumped off of bills on introduction and first reading? Anything needs to come off? Seeing none. Need a motion to approve bills on introduction first reading. We got Councilmember Benedict, properly seconded. Any discussion on bills on introduction first reading? Seeing none. Ready to vote. All those in favor of bills on introduction first reading for passage say aye. Opposed, no. Motion is adopted. All right, we are on item number page 35, we're on bills on second reading. This is my understanding, at least for BL 2022-1630 and BL 2022-1631, that they are both going to be deferred for 2 meetings. Is Is that my understanding as we get started on this? And that there's going to be an effort to work with the mayor's office. They're going to call the groups, the sides in and see if they can come up with something that will work. That's my understanding. So with that understanding in place, I'm going to go and just make sure of all that. Item number 95, Bill 2022-1630 by Councilmember Swope, Syracuse and Hall, ordinance to amend Title II of the Metropolitan Code of Laws to create the Nashville Film and Television Advisory Board. Councilmember Syracuse, you're recognized on the bill.
Move for deferral for 2 meetings.
Okay, we got committee reports. Budget and Finance, Councilmember Allen. Sorry.
Thank you, Mr. Vice Mayor. Budget and Finance recommended a 2-meeting deferral, 9 in favor, 0 against.
All right, thank you. Public Facilities, Councilmember Hurt, is that yours?
Thank you, President, Mr. President. Public Facilities, Art and Culture voted 6 in favor, 0 against for a deferral of 2 meetings on both 1630 and 1631.
Okay, thank you. Councilmember Syracuse, you're recognized on the bill.
Thank you, Vice Mayor. Move deferral 2 meetings.
Okay, motion is to defer 2 meetings, properly seconded. Any discussion? All those in favor of the deferral motion for 2 meetings say aye. Opposed, no. That one's deferred 2 meetings. Bill 2022-1631 by Councilmember Stiles, Welch, Toombs, and Sepulveda, an ordinance to amend Title II of the Metropolitan Code of Laws to create the Nashville Entertainment Creation Commission. Councilmember Stiles, you're recognized on the bill.
Thank you, Vice Mayor. Committee reports.
Budget and Finance, Councilmember Allen.
Thank you, Mr. Vice Mayor. Budget and Finance recommended a 2-meeting deferral, 9 in favor, 0 against.
All right, and we have already gotten the committee report from Councilmember Hurt. You're recognized on your bill.
Thank you, Vice Mayor. I would like to move for the 2-meeting deferral and a brief comment.
All right, so the motion is to defer 2 meetings, properly seconded. Back to Councilmember Stiles.
Thank you, Vice Mayor. I am certainly hoping in these next couple of weeks we are able to figure something out. We've received a lot of emails over the last year, and we've certainly heard what people want. So I hope that our goal is to come up with one commission and the parameters that people have decided on. So there is evidence on your desk. Please take a look at that and keep that in mind as we come back to the table with new legislation. Thank you.
All right, thank you, Councilmember Stiles. The motion is to defer 2 meetings. This is Bill 2022-1631. Defer 2 meetings. It was properly seconded. Any discussion on the deferral motion? Seeing none, all those in favor of the deferral motion for 2 meetings say aye. Opposed, no. This one's deferred 2 meetings. All right, now that we got those 2 taken care of, I've got a second reading consent agenda. Let me go over the bills on second reading consent. Item number 97, 1632 is on consent. 1633 is on consent. 1634 is on consent. 1635 on consent. 1636 on consent. 1637 on consent. 1638 is on consent. 1639 is on consent. 1640 is on consent, and 1641 is on consent. So every bill besides those 2 are on consent. Anything needs to be bumped off? Seeing none, here we go. Bill 2022-1632 by Council Members Roten, Allen, Gamble, and others. Ordinance amending Title V of the Metropolitan Code of Laws by adding a new section requiring the Metropolitan government to adopt and maintain a fund balance reserve policy. Bill 2022-1633 by Allen, Roten, Hurt, and O'Connell. Ordinance amending Title V of the Metropolitan Code of Laws to adopt a CPACER program within Davidson County to be administered by the Office of the Metropolitan Trustee. Bill 2022-1634, Allen, Roten, and Hurt. An ordinance approving standardized forms, agreements, and other documents to be utilized by the Metropolitan Trustee in administering the CPACER program. Item number 100, BL 2022-1635, Toombs, Roten, and others. Ordinance approving a participation agreement between the Metropolitan government acting through the Housing Division of the Metropolitan Planning Department and Urban Housing Solutions to provide enhanced pedestrian signaling for UHS's proposed development as well as other existing properties in the area. Item number 101, Johnston, Roten, Withers, and Hurt, BL 2022-1636, ordinance approving the Fourth Amendment to the lease agreement between the Metropolitan government and the Nashville Zoo, approving the conveyance of property for the Nashville Zoo, Inc. via quick claim to the Metropolitan government of Nashville and Davidson County, and approving a participation agreement between the Metropolitan government and the Nashville Zoo, Inc. for the construction of a facility parking garage. Item Item number 102, BL 2022-1637 by Withers, Roten, and Hurt. Ordinance approving a purchase and sale agreement between the Trust for Public Land and Metropolitan Government for a parcel of property located at 1900 Forest Avenue. Item number 103, BL 2022-1638 by O'Connell, Withers, and Pulley. Ordinance authorizing Newco Arc LLC to install, construct, and maintain underground encroachments in the right-of-way located at 221 4th Avenue North. Item number 104, BL 2022-1639 by Withers and Pulley, an ordinance authorizing the Metropolitan Government to abandon public sanitary sewer force mains, to construct public sanitary sewer force mains, and to acquire permanent and temporary easements through negotiation, condemnation, and acceptance deed for 13 properties located near Whites Creek Pike, Interstate 24. Item number 105, Bradford, Withers, and Pulley, BL 2022-1640, an ordinance authorizing the Metropolitan Government of Nashville and Davidson County to accept new water and sanitary sewer mains, fire hydrant assembly, sanitary sewer manholes, and easements for property located at 1363 Pleasant Hill Road, also known as Pleasant Cove Subdivision. And item number 106, BL 2022-1641, Toombs, Withers, and Pulley, ordinance authorizing the Metropolitan Government to accept new public water and sanitary sewer mains and sanitary sewer manholes for property located at 2040B McKinley Street, also known as 810 McKinley Street Development. Those are the items on the second reading consent agenda. Anything needs to be bumped off? All right, seeing none, I need some committee reports. Budget and Finance, Councilmember Allen, you're recognized.
Thank you, Mr. Vice Mayor. Budget and Finance recommended approval, 9 in favor, 0 against for BL 2022-1632, 1633, 1634, 1635, 1636, 1637, and that's it.
I believe that's it. Councilmember Withers, Planning and Zoning.
Thank you, Mr. Vice Mayor. The Planning and Zoning Committee met and considered ordinances BL 2022-1635, 1636, 1637, 1638, 1639, 1640, and 1641, and recommended approval of each of those. 6 in favor, 0 against, 0 abstentions.
All right, thank you. Councilmember Hurt, Public Facilities.
Thank you, Mr. President. Public Facilities, Arts, and Culture voted 6 in favor, 0 against for both BL 2022-1636 and 1637.
All right, thank you. Last committee report in is Councilmember Pulley.
Thank you, Mr. Vice Mayor. Transportation Infrastructure recommended approval of BL 2022-1635, 6 in favor, 0 against, and BL 2022-1638 through 1641, 7 in favor, 0 against, and I move approval of the second reading consent agenda.
All right, I got a motion to approve the second reading consent agenda, properly seconded. Any discussion on approving the consent agenda on second reading? Seeing none, all those in favor of the approval of the second reading consent agenda say aye.
Aye.
Opposed, no. That motion passes. All right. Okay. All right. We're on bills on third reading. Let's go through those. These are bills on the consent agenda on the third reading consent agenda. Item number 107, BL 2022-1071 is on consent. 1528 is on consent. 1572 is on consent. 1579 is on consent. 1580 is on consent. 1584 is on consent. 1585 is on consent, 1586 on consent, 1587 on consent, 1588 is on consent, 1589 on consent, 1590 is on consent, 1591 on consent, 1592 is on consent, and 1593 is on consent. Anything needs to be bumped off of the consent agenda for third reading? Seeing none, I'll go through the bills on consent. Item number 107, Bill 2022-1071 by Councilmember Toombs. Ordinance to amend Title 17 by change from IR to MUG-NS zoning for property located at 407 Great Circle Road at the northern terminus of Athens Way. It's 15 acres. Bill 2022-1528, Sepulveda to Toombs, Stiles, and others. This is item number 108, ordinance amending Title 2, Title 6, Title 7 of the Metropolitan Code of Laws to amend the nomination process and membership of various boards and commissions. Item number 110, Bill 2022-1572, Henderson, Young, Bradford, and others, an ordinance amending Section 12.12.190 of the Metropolitan Code of Laws relative to traffic calming projects. Item number 111, Bill 2022-1579 by Parker and Porterfield, ordinance amending Metropolitan Code of Laws Section 6.28.035 to align the term of the member of the Metropolitan Council appointed to the Short-Term Rental Appeals Board with the Metropolitan Council term. Item number 112, Bill 2022-1580. It's an ordinance amending Metropolitan Code Section 15.16.370 to clarify the Metropolitan Department of Water and Sewer Services ability to access, read, repair, and replace meters. That's by Councilmember Pulley. Next item is item number 115, Bill 2022-1584 by Withers and Pulley. Ordinance authorizing the Metropolitan Government to abandon public sanitary sewer mains, sanitary sewer manholes, and an easement to construct public sanitary sewer mains and sanitary sewer manholes and acquire permanent and temporary easements through negotiation acceptance deed for property located at 28th Avenue North. Again, Withers and Pulley. 116, Bill 2022-1585 by Councilmembers Withers and Pulley. Ordinance authorizing the Metropolitan Government to abandon existing public water mains and easements to accept new water mains, fire hydrant assemblies, sanitary sewer manholes, and easements for property located in 1904 Hay Street, also known as Hay Street Residential. Item number 117, Bill 2022-1586, Toombs, Withers, and Pulley. Ordinance authorizing the Metropolitan Government to accept new sanitary sewer manholes for property located at 1317B Baptist World Center Drive. Item number 118, Bill 2022-1587 by Council Members O'Connell, Withers, and Pulley. Ordinance authorizing the Metropolitan Government to accept new sanitary sewer manholes and easements for property located at 1300B Edge Hill Avenue. And 119, Bill 2022-1588 by Council Members O'Connell, Withers, Pulley, and Evans. Ordinance authorizing the Metropolitan Government to abandon existing sanitary sewer mains, sanitary sewer manholes, relocate public fire hydrants, to accept new public sanitary sewer main and sewer main and sanitary sewer manholes for property located at 110 Joe Johnson Avenue, also known as Metro Permanent Supportive Housing. Those are the items on the third reading. Oh, wait a minute. Oh, I've got more. Sorry. I thought I'd finished. 1589. Thought I was done. Bill 2022-1589 by Councilmember Sledge, Withers, and Pulley. Ordinance authorizing the Metropolitan Government to abandon existing public water mains, accept new public water mains, and one sanitary sewer manhole for three properties located at 542, 546, and 548 Rosedale Avenue. 121, BL 2022-1590 by O'Connell, Withers, and Pulley. Ordinance authorizing the Metropolitan Government of Nashville to accept new public water and sanitary sewer main and sanitary sewer manholes for property located at 1010 Church Street. Item number 122, Bill 2022-1591, Bradford, Withers, and Pulley. Ordinance authorizing the Metropolitan Government to abandon existing public water mains, accept new public water mains and fire hydrant assemblies for property located at 1 Terminal Drive, also known as Atlantic Aviation Hangars. Item number 123, Bill 2022-1592 by Withers and Pulley. Ordinance authorizing the Metropolitan Government to accept new public sanitary sewer mains, sanitary sewer manholes, and easements for two properties located at 2676 and 2664 Sanford Road in Williamson County, also known as Willowbrook Subdivision. And item number 124, which is the last bill on this, Bill 2022-1593, Sledge, Withers, and Pulley. Ordinance authorizing the Metropolitan Government to rehabilitate existing public sanitary sewer mains and to accept sanitary sewer manholes for property located at 1264 3rd Avenue South, also known as 3rd and Hart. All right, those are the bills on the third reading consent calendar, and I need no committee reports. Okay, I don't believe that. I believe that's right. Let's see. I think they're all in. Okay. So, Councilmember Pulley, I need a motion to approve all bills on third reading consent.
Move to approve all bills on third reading consent.
That's very good. Councilmember Pulley has moved all bills on third reading consent. Councilmember Johnston seconds it. Any discussion on any bills on third reading consent? Seeing none, all those in favor of all bills on third reading consent say aye. Opposed, no. All bills on third reading consent pass. We've got just a couple left. Item number 109, BL 2022-1533 by Councilmembers Rosenberg, Roten, Withers, Pulley, Hauser, and Druffel. Ordinance accepting an easement on certain property located at 7034 Charlotte Pike, owned by Lowe's Home Centers. Councilmember Rosenberg, you're recognized on the bill.
Thank you, Mr. President. I have a substitute on this. It's on third reading, so it will require a rule suspension. Normally, I would rescind our action on second to get it back there so we wouldn't have to, but this is time sensitive. It's been worked out with the administration. Mr. Jameson could be so kind as to indicate assent. Thank you. And so I ask for your approval to discuss this substitute and move to suspend the rules to allow its introduction.
Go to the Rules Committee. Didn't need to go because it's okay. All right, so it did not go to rules. So Councilmember Rosenberg is moving to suspend the rules to get the substitute before us tonight. All right, any objection to suspension of the rules? Councilmember Druffel? Not on this, okay. Anybody? Okay, rules are suspended. Councilmember Rosenberg, you're on your substitute.
Thank you, Mr. President. This is in many ways the same as the substitute last week. It removes the references that caused some heartache and also just updates some language. We spent some time tweaking over the past week. I'd move approval on it. It will add a little bit of language that some of the providers and other advocates would like to see in it. Although it doesn't cure all the heartache, I think it's a good thing to add and move approval.
All right, so Councilmember Rosenberg is moving approval of the substitute. It's seconded by Councilmember Lee. Councilmember Lee, do you have any comment? Councilmember Lee. Councilmember Druffel, you're recognized.
Yeah, I'd like to thank the sponsor for working on this to make it a win-win. It started out as a zoning issue with a variance, and it's turned into a great discussion on how we impact the homeless encampment. And I think the sponsor's done a good job of creating a win-win for us, both in taking care of the housing first solution for the homeless, but also then eventually getting our park back. So I appreciate that. Thank you.
All right. Thank you, Councilmember Druffel. So, Councilmember Welsh, you're recognized.
Thank you, Mr. President. I, too, would like to give kudos to the sponsor on this bill and the work that he has done, and I am very glad to see that the housing first focus that was in the original substitute remains intact. I think that's very important. So I would just ask my colleagues to approve this bill. Thank you so much.
All right. Thank you, Councilmember Welsh. Anybody else on the substitute? Seeing none, we're voting on the substitute. All those in favor of the substitute say aye. Opposed, no. Substitute's adopted. Councilmember Rosenberg, you're on your bill as substituted.
Thank you, Mr. President. While my concerns I expressed in the last meeting still exist, I think that this is in a position for us to move forward and pass on third reading. I want to take the opportunity also to thank Council Members Druffel and Welsh for their compassionate approach to this issue. We don't agree on all the elements of it by a long shot, but I appreciate where they came from and I appreciate where they're coming from. And I think it's also important to call out that there's been some inaccurate and insensitive and inflammatory language coming from within the room, both from the floor and in email blasts. And I hope moving forward, everybody can come from the same place of compassion that Council Members Druffel and Welsh have. And I move approval.
All right. Thank you, Councilmember Rosenberg. Councilmember Rosenberg moves approval of Bill 2022-1533 as substituted. It's been properly seconded. Councilmember Druffel on the entire bill as substituted, properly seconded. Any discussion? Any further discussion? Seeing none, we're ready to vote. All those in favor of Bill 2022-1533 as substituted say aye. Opposed, no. Bill as substitute passes on third reading. All right, thank you. We're on item number 113. This is BL 2022-1582 by council members Roten, Young, Evans, and others. An ordinance establishing a program for the purpose of providing assistance to low-income elderly residents of the Metropolitan government for the fiscal year 2022-2023. Council member Young, I think you're recognized.
Move for approval.
All right, so Councilmember Young moves for approval of BL 2022-1582. All the committee reports are in, properly seconded. Any discussion on 1582? Seeing none, we're ready to vote. All those in favor of 1582 say aye. Aye. Opposed, no. 1582 passes on third reading. I think this is the last bill up. It's BL 2022-1583 by Councilmember Sledge, Roten, and Hurt. Ordinance approving Amendment 2 to the contract for program management services between Gobble Hayes Partners, Inc. and the Metropolitan Government of National Davidson County, which extends the contract term for an additional 30 months and limits the scope. Councilmember Sledge, you're recognized.
Thank you, Vice Mayor. Just move to defer one meeting, please.
Motion is to defer one meeting. That's properly seconded. Any discussion on the deferral motion? Seeing none, we're voting on the deferral motion of one meeting. All those in favor of the deferral motion say aye.
Aye.
Opposed, no. This one's deferred one meeting. All right, I think that's it. I need a motion to adjourn. Got a motion to adjourn, properly seconded. Any discussion? Seeing none, all those in favor of the motion to adjourn say aye. Opposed, no. We stand adjourned.
Half hours long, maybe a little shorter of that. That for this council and any council in recent years, that's pretty much acting at record pace, particularly considering that they had an agenda that was 45 pages long and included 46 second reading zoning bills up for public hearing. And usually zoning bills have to go through individually, and no consent calendar for that, so it takes a while to get through all those. Tonight, the council got through the entire agenda, all 45 pages long, 124 items within a little less than 2.5 hours. Among some of the highlights tonight, the council on public hearing approved a bill that redefines what it means to be what a family is under the code. The only concern, the bill passed on second reading, has been deferred for a little bit more study before it comes up on third reading. There was some concern among council members about the limit that would be changed on how many non-related people can live in the same location. That right now it's 3 in the code, but this would take it up to 7. Some concern about that, what that might mean to infrastructure in the area, and also just having that many people under one roof. But the council at this point passed the bill on second reading. Council also approved an ordinance on second reading tonight that would set up new policies for dipping into the city's fund balances. A lot of problems in recent years in city finances being very tight, and using fund balances. This sets up some new guidelines on that. There was a resolution also about this, but this was deferred so that now that the bill that passed on second reading will be on third reading in 2 weeks on January 17th. This can be considered for final action on both bills at the same time. Council also approved a resolution tonight that approves an economic impact plan for the proposed Madison Station development that's been on the works for some time. It was approved tonight on the consent calendar, so without any opposition by the council. The plan is expected to generate a significant number of jobs, taxes, and related development. The legislation would help provide tax increment financing for the project to help cover some related public infrastructure and site development. Other resolutions, the council approved grant applications to the state to receive a $3 million grant to support Metro Police in the reduction of violent crime in the community. They also approved 2 resolutions for NDOT to apply for grants, $2 million to the state for the use of video and other sensor data to identify safety issues outside traditional crash reports. There'll be a particular focus on North Nashville, focusing on Clarksville Pike, Buchanan Street area to improve transportation safety with an emphasis on pedestrian and bicyclist safety. The other resolution would authorize NDOT to seek a $12 million state grant. It would require a $3.4 million match from Metro. This again would focus on Gallatin Pike, where they have some of the highest transit ridership in Middle Tennessee, but it's also one of Metro's most congested corridors. On memorializing resolutions, the council honored Meryl Rose on her retirement from News Channel 5, as well as recognizing the retirement and service of MP&F Strategic Communications Senior Partner David Fox. Under two second reading bills, it approved two ordinances. Well, the council looked at two ordinances tonight that would deal with an issue it's been struggling with quite a bit. One would create a Nashville Film and Television Advisory Board, while another would create the Nashville Entertainment Creation Commission. They both seem to have the same focuses and opportunities, but the council can't decide which one to do. So these bills are being deferred for at least 2 meetings to work with the mayor's office to see if some common ground can't come forth to move something ahead on this, because right now the council has looked at this in several different ways and so far has not been able to go forward with approving on any of them at this point. Council also set up a program on second reading that allows the trustee's office to run a program to assist owners of agricultural, commercial, industrial, and some multifamily residential properties to obtain low cost and long-term financing for qualifying clean energy and resilience improvements to their properties. There's also a bill on third reading that was also approved by the council tonight that establishes, again in cooperation with the trustee's office, a property tax relief program for low-income elderly residents in Davidson County if they meet the income requirements for making no more than $31,600 per year. On third and final reading, the council did approve, and this also happened on the consent calendar, so it was basically unanimous. The bill would increase the size and who makes appointments to 11 of the city's boards and commissions in an effort to foster more diversity and representation. The boards in many cases will be expanded in size, and with the appointments made not just by the mayor with council confirmation, but by direct election of the council in some cases. This legislation was negotiated with the mayor's office, so it approves Mayor Cooper is ready to sign it now that it's been passed and put it into law. By the way, all members of Metro boards and commissions serve on multi-year terms on by volunteer unpaid basis. On third reading, the council approved a bill that would codify existing traffic calming programs maintained by the Department of Transportation, and it also provides additional regulations for privately funded traffic calming projects. The council is one of these issues that struggled with quite a bit for several different bills. A substitute bill was passed on this second reading last meeting, and it appears it has now received final approval tonight. Finally, on third reading, the council also took care of a problem that had frankly bedeviled it on what would normally be a routine bill, which was an easement acceptance on Charlotte Avenue, but the measure had gotten embroiled in the pending closure of the nearby Brookmead homeless encampment and Metro getting the folks that are there right now into some kind of housing. This has got 2 meetings where the council's gotten kind of balled up in some parliamentary procedures and other kind of things. Tonight, Councilman Rosenberg, who was the original sponsor, had the bill taken away from him 2 weeks ago. He offered a substitute to the bill that was approved by the rest of the council, and on voice vote, the council approved it unanimously, and that will now go on to Mayor Cooper for his signature as well. The council is now in recess for 2 weeks until the third Tuesday of the month of January. That'll be January 17th. We'll be here at that time to provide live coverage. Until then, I'm Pat Nolan, and good night from the council chambers. Tonight's Metro Council meeting has been a public affairs presentation of the Metro Nashville Network. Have a good night.
This has been a service of the Metro Nashville Network. If you would like to see this presentation again, or for more information on this and other programs, visit nashville.gov.